just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
What's happening, guys? It's time for another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your favourite tutor, Ian Doss Mackay. Next Level Guy is the go-to men's interview, interest and improvement website where I quiz experts to find out the hacks, tips, methods and protocols that you can implement in your own life to take it to the next level and live happier, healthier, wealthier, sexier and so much more. Today's guest is Neil McTeggart, who's a professional coach and an amateur dad. He's been a professional trainer by day and a dad blogger by night. Neil has coached for over 20 years and has been a dad for just a handful. Neil aims to provide users with an insight to both the fitness lifestyle and the dad journey by combining both roles and sprinkling on a touch of humour on his hilarious Facebook page, Amateur Dad. His long-suffering wife Jen makes the odd appearance and gives an insight into her fitness, lifestyle and her amazing transformation as she went from a former gym hater and is now a hot mama too. On the other side of the coin, Neil is a professional coach. He's got over 20 years of experience and he considers himself a student of all things strength and movement. Over the past 2 decades, he's studied many aspects of fitness to provide his clients with multiple solutions to their problems. His client base is often seen as quite advanced, given their levels of strength and performance, but this coach simply states that his best students are just beginners that keep on showing up. In this interview, we discuss his story, fitness, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how becoming a father changed him and what he's learned during this time, skill development, parenting insights, how he's using the COVID-19 downtime to make himself a better man as well as a parent, and how to become the parent you'd want your kids to try and emulate once they've grown up. This interview is 2 hours long, but it really only feels like half an hour. Neil is so charismatic and funny, as well as giving such awesome gems throughout, that it only feels like half an hour, and you just connect with Neil because he's instantly likeable. You will really enjoy this one, and I know you'll become a big fan of his. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for doing this, Neil. Really appreciate it. You're an absolute legend in the social media at the moment, but for maybe those who don't know you, could you just give a quick intro, who you are, why you're so well known, just a bit about you?
Okay, yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me on. It's brilliant. And as sort of we were saying there, you are popping my cherry on this. So this is my first podcast. So my name's Neil McTeggart. I've just recently turned 40. Don't look it. And I'm a professional coach, amateur dad. So I've been a personal trainer for sort of 20 plus years and a dad now for just about 4. So in terms of being known, I was known in fitness because I'm sort of like, there's not a lot of guys who've been personal training. It's quite a new industry. So the fact that I've been in it sort of 20 years, I'd be well known. And then my dad blog went viral a couple of times with some of the posts, maybe reaching like 5 million people, maybe. So at the minute, the page has about 35,000 followers of just organic people who follow the page, So yeah, professional coach, amateur dad. And I'm currently living just outside Belfast in Bangor with my wife, long-suffering wife, and 2 kids. So I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So yeah, that's the elevator pitch of some description there.
I think it's a glutton for punishment. My sister's got 3 wee ones, and I love being the uncle at the moment, but I can hand them back. But I mean, is this how you seen your life kind of starting out? I mean, what did you want to be as an as a child? Did you always want to go into the fitness side of things? Did you always want to be married with the kids?
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like if you'd asked me before I met Jen, so I met Jen when I was like 31, and if you'd asked me a year before that, I didn't see myself being married. Actually, that had a couple of girlfriends, a couple of long-term things, and just didn't imagine it, until I met Jen, and then we just hit it off, and I knew on the first date I was going to marry her, and it was just perfect. So yeah, if you'd asked me what to be my life, I suppose a lot of it's turned out the way I thought it would in terms of the fitness side of it. But I got into fitness when I was 15, so I started training. I was skipping school to go to the gym because my brother brought me to it. I was a skinny kid. Work-wise, I didn't know what I wanted to be or whatever, and I went to my first gym at 15 as a skinny kid, I sort of got into it, and within a couple of months, people were saying like, "Oh, you can see the difference. You know, your strength's coming on. You can see a bit of muscle. What are you doing?" And then I say I was skipping school to go training, or going home to get food, and because I was maybe doing squats that night and deadlifts. So I ended up starting to help people in the gym. I was like, oh, guys asking for advice, training a couple of mates. And I just had that epiphany of, I think I could do this. So when I actually said in school, like to my careers advisors and stuff, oh, I'd love to work in a gym. And they were like, yeah, so what about a real job? And that was the sort of careers advice I was given. Um, so yeah, I just sort of bummed about a bit. And I gradually became obsessed with fitness. Like in school, I would have failed exams and it wouldn't have been great. But when I get into fitness, it was like, this interests me. And when it interested me, I want to study more about it, know more about it. You consume yourself. And I suppose that like Dunning-Kruger effect, I think is the term where, you're in it a wee bit and then you start to realize how much you don't know and you want to know more. And I just became obsessed with the fitness side of it.
It absorbs you, doesn't it? It just kind of takes over your life. It's like jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
Once you realize how little you know, you're like,
it's
oh, for the
crazy.
love of. But I mean, when into that, what made you realize? Because I've seen you write about that on your Facebook page about how you knew Jen was the one for you there and then on the first date. I mean, I thought you were just going for brownie points then, like, but
Yeah.
what was it about her, about the situation that made you feel she was the one for you? Was there like signs that you had noticed with like red flags with other girlfriends that, or was it just like a general connection and it just felt right? You know,
Yeah.
could you put it in words, do you think? Because
It's a tough
I've only ever had one relationship where I've felt like I could marry that person. The rest
Yeah.
were kind of head cases, shall we say.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I
is
think, yeah, I think there's a thing too. When you're in your 20s, a lot of your mates are sort of getting engaged and getting married. And you're maybe with a girlfriend. You sort of think, well, this is the right one because of the timing sort of thing, But um, I had a couple of friends actually, and a girl that sort of was one of my managers back in the day, and I remember seeing her with her husband, and she seemed super loved up. And I remember thinking, you can't. That must be an act. There's no way they can be that much in love and all the rest of it. And then when I met Jen, I met her in a bar. As they always say, you don't meet people in bars. But I met her in a bar, and I'd had a few beers in me at that stage, and bumped in there, got chatting. We booked a date, and just on the date, I just thought this is just so right. There's just it was hard to put words on it, but you could have just sat, in these like you could sit all night chatting, and we were from very different sort of backgrounds. Like I was from North Belfast and quite a rough school and everything else. And Jen was really well educated. She was doing her chartered accountancy, so it was a bit of a, um, I was the lower class boyfriend. Like when I first met her dad, I remember he came in. We were at her mom's house, and Jen was back at home at that stage, and her dad walked in. There's me with the tattoos, and the kid from sort of Ballysun, which is a rough sort of area. And then there's their daughter who played the violin and was a chartered accountant, and the apple of the eye. So on paper, we actually didn't make sense, probably, but as a husband and wife team, we are just an A team. But it just happened, and it's funny. I see it in a lot of like dad forums and stuff because obviously I do the dad blogging and I'm be a part of a lot of forums. And there's so many guys come on and say, "Listen, I'm going to commit suicide, or I'm in a really bad place, or whatever. I'm 30 and I haven't got my shit together." And you're like, I think of how much of my life has improved in the last couple of years. Just it just keeps getting better, and I think you just keep chipping away, and you'll meet the right people, and you'll surround yourself in the right network if you're open to it.
because you do see that though. It's like we're in a society now where like older people can do gap years and people getting married at like 80, 90 years old.
Mm,
So I think we're getting to that point where we kind of need to think, yeah, the 2.5 kids relation, the house, the car, that's not for everybody, and it's an
totally.
old fashioned ideal of what we're expected to do. Like women, I suppose, are getting more pressure because they're expected to have kids by
Yeah.
30, married, and all that. But nowadays, we can do what we want. I mean, you can order a date online, you can order a taxi, you can order food to your house. Now we're getting into cars with strangers. When we're told for years growing up, it just makes no sense. This world, like.
Doesn't make
But
it.
I mean,
Screw that.
you were how did your attitude change? Because you always seemed like this really outgoing, funny guy. Your writing when you were in Men's Health was like really funny. You kind of connected to like the normal person rather than,
Yeah.
one of these guys who talked about like the highest virtue stuff, and people go, "What the fuck is this on about?" You had a way of just connecting and coaching people with your writing, and it was amazing to read it, and like your plans made sense, and it was so good to kind of find somebody like that when you were starting in the gym, like I was at the time. But you seemed a pretty cool lad, I think is what the kids call it.
Okay.
How did you think you needed to change when you became a dad? Did you have that discussions to say now is the right time for kids, or was there much planning? Because I've often wondered, like, I've got friends with kids, how much planning did you put into, now's the right time for kids?
Uh, it's funny. There's a couple of parts in that, and I'll probably do the writing part first. So in terms of my writing, like I remember failing English and English lit in school. I'll end up I got a not that I failed it, but I just had a very average achievement level at it. But my mum was actually she had been a teacher and she taught like French, German, and English, and was very well educated and an intelligent woman with no common sense at all. And my dad was the other side. He was a bit of a schemer, skiver. He'd been a bricklayer, joiner, and had a real good wit and street sense. So I found that probably from those two, I had some sort of um way of putting things together, but with like my dad's spin on it. So when I wrote, people always said to me, like they say, I'm not a trained writer. I had a bit of a fitness blog maybe 15 years ago, and when I was writing, I was just writing it from a very relatable angle. I just wrote the way I spoke to people, which is probably the thing. And yeah, guys just seemed to connect to that. And then when I started my amateur dad, the sort of Facebook page, um, at the time I'd done some articles, like I'd done a 12-page article for one of the men's fitness type magazines, and it got translated into German and French, and it did all the usual. And I thought, I was just not really enjoying this. And then as the kids came along, well, just as my eldest was born, I thought I'd love to write again, but do it as a dad and do it because you don't feel under the same pressure. Like if you write about fitness or you talk about, a lot of times you do have to reference, where are you getting that information from? What's the studies done? Whereas as the dad life, it's lovely being able to write it purely from my experience, and you don't have to back it up with some, like a 10-page citation or PubMed or something. This is how it is. So I love just the human element of what I do, whether it's training or the
I
dad.
mean, it certainly comes across in your writing because when you read these like articles in, like Men's Health Journal, all these kind of things, they come across as like, oh, and if you take such and such amount of protein and it's like people don't talk. But when I listen to some of your conversations on like you and Jen or you and the kids on your page, people can relate because we've all got mental lives.
Hmm.
And you have these conversations, you go, Jesus, don't ever let that be seen outside. And then and it's like, don't tell anybody she said that. And when you go, oh, wait till you hear what my kid said, and it's,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's so relatable, and it really comes across in your writing. And it's strange that you don't feel yourself as a writer because you're actually one of the best, like you're easily one of the most connectable people, and I think that's why your page has become so successful.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like some of the comments I get, it's mad. Like there was a girl who messaged me on the page saying she was going through her cancer treatment and just she was sitting there in tears, laughing at one of the posts. I think the big thing for me is I know a lot of good coaches on paper, right, and guys who've done a lot of qualifications and they're on paper they look brilliant, but they weren't great in the real world. And I always thought, well, what makes a good coach? It's not what you know or what you think you know, it's how you communicate that to the person in front of you. And that's the important thing. And I always like the idea of I probably see myself as a content creator and a communicator where you're creating this content and you're communicating it across and people buy into it or relate to it because you're just ticking the same boxes. Um, so yeah, that's how I would view myself as a communicator.
So at the time when like, did you discuss having the kids? I mean, or was it a case of you just knew it
I'm just
felt right?
terrible
And
at the pull-out method. I just haven't.
well, I was going to ask, like, what was your preferred, like, condoms? Because I've only
Yeah,
had sort of two potential. I would call them scares now when I know the relationship of where it went after,
yeah, yeah,
But I've kind of often wondered. There's only one person I probably would have, And I remember she had to get a pregnancy test before an operation, and I remember thinking, I wouldn't be disappointed if it came back yes, and that kind of blew me away that I could feel that way about somebody. But I mean, was this? Can you remember that moment of being told you were going to be a dad?
yeah,
What kind
yeah.
of hit you?
It's that I remember pooping my pants. No, I think like myself and Jen, we'd been working really hard. We got a lovely house, which is our house we're in now. It was sort of a bit of a dream home. We for a couple of years we'd just been working and saving, and we put a good deposit down. And we'd been in our house about a year, and we had the two cats, and we were sort of happy. Everything was good work wise, and we were settled. And it was just one of those things that happened. Jen got pregnant quite quick. Obviously, I'm extremely fertile, and it was just she had a few wines, and that was it. There you go.
Sounds like a good Friday night.
Yeah, it is a surreal thing, and seeing the pregnancy test, and I still remember the shakes of Jen, like, and then it's just that surreal thing of, oh, I am going to be a dad here, and I do. At the time I was 36, so yeah, I would have been 36 now, 35, 36, and you just think you're never ready. I know guys will say, "Oh, I couldn't, I'm not ready to have kids or whatever." I don't think you're ever ready. It's just it comes along, and it's crazy as humans how quick we're able to adapt to it and just get on with it. Um, but it is a tough process, and obviously for the women going through the whole pregnancy thing, and there's the ups and downs of that with sickness, being self-employed as well. Like I'm self-employed 17 years, so you don't really get any sort of downtime. You're always working. It's hard, and then when the kid comes along, it's you're thrown into this, especially as guys. It's hard for men, I think, because the women have had a lot more, obviously, the pregnancy feelings and everything else. And yeah, as a guy, you're present there, but it's only when you're handed that baby, you're like, oh shit, I am now a dad, and I'm responsible for this little thing here. It's just a crazy. The second one, you don't really care. You're like, yeah, whatever. But the first one, it was, it's
There's
a
that story in there's like the first one, it's like you have to have everything organic, you have to have like
oh,
goose feather pillows and all that. And the second one, you're like, pick it off the floor and get on with it. Just
but
deal
and
with
all the photos, we have the photographs up of our eldest, and we did the swimming lessons and the baby yoga and all this sort of stuff. And the second one's out in the garden eating grass, probably as we speak. I don't even know if she's. I don't even know where she is. I might have to, have a look out the window. But
it. Leave the door open for her in the middle of the night. She'll come back. We'll get there now.
yeah.
You can't tell I'm a second child, like.
Yeah, I'm the same middle child, totally neglected. Like,
So you've got two brothers. I mean, have they got kids, or I mean, did you have any practice before this of being like? Because your brother's got a kid, I believe.
yeah. So my older brother, he had a kid who's now an adult. I think my nephew's probably like 19 now. And my older brother is a tortured genius, really intelligent guy. He could have been a professional snooker player. When he went for guitar lessons, he was better than the guy that was teaching the lessons. He's owned multi-million-pound companies. He walked away from a company and ended up becoming a window cleaner for a while, just with stress. And he would have sold like paintings and drawings, and is just a very intelligent guy. So he now works in IT, and he has a son as my nephew, and then my younger brother had Crohn's disease, so he's sort of been up and down with that. It's been quite hard on him, and he now has two kids. So it's funny that the younger brother is a proper machine. He's in IT as well, and same idea. Could listen to a song and play it on the guitar, and he can sing, and just these talented bastards. So there's a bit of not so much competition, but I think we are all sort of tortured perfectionists. We're never good enough, and it's hard. You put a lot of pressure on yourself that, yeah, this is good, but I can make it better, And I think we've always been like that, just constantly striving to be better versions of ourselves. So yeah, two brothers, and my mum and dad are actually dead now this weekend, sort of. Well, they would have been.
I'm sorry to read that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
but one of my questions was about like do you feel like now when you look back at that, like the stuff that you went through as a kid, the parenting and stuff like, do you now understand why they maybe had told you off in a certain way or guided you in a certain way? Because you were saying that you were closer now to Jen's parents, and so, I mean, you mentioned on the blog about how you missed they didn't get the opportunity to meet Alex and that, and it's, have you come to sort of, did can you come to peace with that at all? Is this something you struggle with now and then, or
Yeah. So my mum, it was her birthday yesterday. She would have been 71, and she died when she was 63. And dad died 6 months after my mum. So there was 1 year, it was like 18 months where me and Jen got engaged. We'd moved house, changed cars, changed jobs. My mum died. 6 months later, my dad died. We got married 3 months later. Like it was just,
jeez, a roller coaster?
it was 18 months of just, it was like an adult quiz. Because I remember going to like the city hall to get like marriage certificate stuff and also leave in like death certificate stuff for my mum. And it was just like it was being interviewed to be an adult. You're just getting hit with all this sort of stuff. But it's funny, like I do think about my mom and dad quite. They obviously feature quite a lot, but the other side of it is, I think they raised me to be strong and a good person. So I always think, although they're not here, they've sort of passed on the mantle, and that's your sort of role as a. I always think, you know what, they did a good job. Although looking back now, I think my parents were just winging it, like just completely winging it. And you don't realize until you are a parent, like um, how much they did. But yeah, I suppose it would be nice to see them again. And it's sad. It was become one of those things, like when your parents die, you're on that conveyor belt and you see them nearly drop off the edge, and you become very aware of your own health and fitness and
Mm.
longevity. And I'm very obviously I take my health very serious, and I'm thinking, I'm 40 now, and 20 years ago I was 20, and that didn't seem that long ago. So in 20 years I'm
Oh,
60.
passes in seconds, eh?
Yeah, and then in 20 years I'm 60, and my mom and dad died at 63, and I'm already. And then you start doing the maths, and you just think, you know what, I just need to enjoy as much of this as possible and just try and be as long around as long as possible. It's like when my mom and dad passed away, it did change a lot of my thought process regarding work and stuff. Like I remember my dad phoned me and says, it was a bit of a cats in the cradle thing. He phoned me and says, "Oh, we'll have to meet up and go fishing," because they were from Fermanagh originally, but lived in Belfast. He moved back to Fermanagh, which is a big fishing part of Northern Ireland. You've got all the lakes and everything. And he phoned me and says, "Oh, do you want to go fishing?" I'm like, "Oh, I can't. I'm working." And I was personal training at the time, so you're working 6 in the morning, 10 at night, Saturdays, whatever. And so I never got to go fishing with him. And it always felt like the tables had turned. He says, "Oh, you're always working." And I was like, "But I have to. It's what I do." And so now I'm very conscious of the amount of time I spend with the kids is just totally different. So that's my
Yeah.
motivator is enjoying life and having time to enjoy it with the wife and kids.
I mean, it's great. I mean, because you're definitely doing an awesome job, and they've obviously raised you right, and because you can see the love and the tension and the strong connection, I suppose, or love for the kids and for your marriage and stuff. Because when I grew up, I was littered with schoolmates who had broken homes,
Mm.
no father figure, stuff like that. But when I had three grandparents die of cancer within the same year, like
All right.
it crossed over a year, and that's why I remember seeing that was the first time I'd seen my mom and dad as people, not parents,
Yeah.
and that's when I kind of went and oh, and then but I could see them talking through the grief about, and they kind of understood things or discussed things, and you're kind of going, oh, they're just like us. They don't know, but they've got to be the strong person and the connection and stuff like that. And it's strange, in it is when you see your parent as a person, not just a parent, not as this like God in your life kind of thing. And
Because
it's really,
I saw my mum, I think, cry twice. Because mum would never, she always put on a brave face and was a bit of the rock of our household. Like, and one of those I remember was at my granny's funeral. Was the first I really saw her cry, and that was like wipe the tears and you move on and just get on with it. It was funny when my dad died. So he had a heart attack. Yeah, it turned out he had cancer, but we didn't know this until after. He had like bowel cancer, but he died of a heart attack. And he phoned his mate. He was having a heart attack at the time and says, "Listen, I need a lift to the hospital. I'm not well here." And as he was in the car, he turned to his mate mid heart attack. And this is my dad, Oliver. He said, "If anything bad happens to me, I'm going to come back and haunt you." To his mate. And then he died about literally 10 seconds later. And his mate was like, "You fucking fucking bastard. You know, and that so it's funny where mum was always very serious and very straight faced, but dad, no matter what the situation was, it was like I have to get a joke in here. You know, that was his way of sort of dealing with stuff. Even that
He
funeral,
sounds awesome.
dad was always the one that, we were at a serious, proper family funeral, and people were in wrinkles in the corner, and dad was nearly doing like stand up. You know, um, so yeah.
Is that where you get your sort of humor from? Do you think is that the sort of
My dad was the wittiest person, and I know everyone will put their dad obviously on a bit of a pedestal. He was a balloon and a bit of a tit, um, but he,
I'll have to put some
yeah,
understanding for other people.
yeah. So he'd been alcoholic actually. My dad, so he hadn't had a drink in about 30 odd years, but he still held the meetings and stuff, and still went to AA, and he went out to America to like Dr. Bob's house and to see all that sort of stuff in his grave and stuff, and but he would have hosted a lot of meetings. But for him, the way of dealing with anything was always humor. It always sort of got him through, I definitely got that from him. I always thought wit was the most impressive thing. It's like when you watch the old Blackadder's and stuff, and obviously it's scripted and everything else. But I just saw dad in conversations with people and just thought that's how he has entertained that person and made them just so happy. It always stuck with me, Always some people are doom and like dad would have been doom and gloom, but then he was able to just switch it and just turn it around and see the fun side of it, and the real side of it probably because it was hard. Like obviously, growing up in Belfast or Northern Ireland was never great through those sort of times, So I think you needed that bit of positive outlook on things.
Yeah, because it's quite sad nowadays that it's almost like accepted that guys are growing up without father figures or any kind of male role models, and there's that what was his name, Rob something or other. It's like Dad, How Do I? And his channel, like where he
YouTube channel,
he teaches kids how to
like
do how to use a spanner,
hang a
how to
picture and
tie a
all.
tie,
Yeah,
and his videos are going viral, and you think it kind of shows what we're missing in our society as well. We're not teaching the kids what they need to do and stuff like that, but we're also not giving them that kind of role model of the guy that teaches them the strength, and this is why they're looking for other guys to kind of connect with.
yeah,
Unfortunately, it's in gang situations and stuff, but no, they did I mean, they obviously did a fantastic job with you. I know you'll probably struggle to take that as a compliment, like,
yeah,
but I mean, like, you've obviously, because to go through that and the marriage and like having the kids and running a bit, that is phenomenal. Like, that is a true strength of character. It's true strength of you as a person. I mean, people would have crumbled under that. So how did you deal then with, like, when Alex was born premature? Was that something that you kind of, was that a worry, or did you just take it in your usual kind of stride and just like, yep, let's just get on with it. Let's just deal with as it comes.
yeah. Like a big thing was my mum died of lung cancer. So for my 17th birthday, I remember she asked me, "What do you want for your 17th birthday?" And I said, "Stop smoking." And she stopped smoking that day. It was literally she'd stopped. But years later, she beat breast cancer, and then lung cancer is what killed her in the end. And she died. And it was a bit slow, and it was a bit grim. And I always thought, because I've always come from strength training, you always think of strength as like deadlifts and squats and everything else. And how my mom dealt with cancer was real strength. It was just like holy fuck. Like I went with her to the doctors, and the doctor told her like, Miss McTeggart, you are not a well woman. You have literally, you know, weeks, maybe months here. And just the way she dealt with it, as if, right, okay, so what are my options and what do I need to do? And it was just, and I was sitting there just going, fuck, like she's just been told she is gonna die here, and how she just dealt with that was just so impressive. And for me, it was always like you need to be just that strong person, even if it's just temporarily to get through a situation and then worry about it. But so yeah, when Alex was born, she was born premature. Not that it was early. It was a few weeks there, and she was born with. They have to put them on the wee sunbeds, and Jen had to stay in hospital for quite a bit because they're basically the way they go a wee bit jaundice. Um, but it was funny. But I think at that time we'd been so used to a couple of different things, whether it being death in the family or work things or whatever. You just get on with it. I think you just you just see it as another chapter, and right, okay, let's get through this part, and you always thought of yourself as, you know what, other people have hard problems. In the grand scheme, my life's pretty good. I can get through this part, and then we'll just get to the next stage. It's just you just keep battling on, I think.
I mean, did you at the time, did you go to like try any therapy, or did you speak to anybody, or did you find like the going to the gym and having like an outlet for that kind of, not mental anguish, but like letting the stress out kind of helped? Because I mean, I've done CBT, but I found just talking to people was
Yeah.
actually some of the best things to do.
It's funny because people chat to me now, and like, they always think, oh, you're confident and you do these things. I class myself as like an extreme introvert, extrovert, so I sort of swing between both. But it was funny, like when I was working in gyms when I was like 19, 20, 21, and you had those sort of young girlfriends and you're going through all that. I actually suffered a lot with panic attacks and went through a real bad stage where I couldn't have went to the shop. You had to um, think about it for 5, 6 hours if you were going to go to the shop and get a bit of bread or something. So I end up at one stage on beta blockers for anxiety and panic attacks and running out of restaurants. I remember ordering a meal and a meal came and running out of a restaurant, throwing up in the street just with anxiety. And I end up going for like hypnosis was like £70 an hour a couple of times a week sort of stuff just to deal with it. That was hard because I was in fitness and then you were having to go and do these courses and it was all high five group hugs sort of stuff. So for a lot of my late teens, early 20s, I struggled a lot with anxiety and stuff. And then as I get older, the weight room for me, it's like that Henry Rollins quote. There's a great quote on it where like a 200-pound bar is always a 200-pound bar. So my release was always just go and lift some weights and you put your head somewhere else, And I think that's a big thing for men now, a big problem for men now. And I talk to a lot of my online guys about this is they don't have a release. And for me, I have weights and I have jiu-jitsu and I have family and all the rest of it. But you need something that just lets the air out, And a guy explained to me years ago, he said, for a lot of men, they're sitting, the rev counter sitting at like 9 out of 10. And the minute they get a wee bit of stress or whatever, they're hitting 10. And for me, I see myself now as like a 1 or a 2. I used to be at that 9 or 10 where any little thing, you got an email or, oh, fuck, and I put you over the edge. Whereas now, it was funny when I got asked to go on TV, you would have seen it a TV show phone me and says, Neil, do you want to come on live TV on Wednesday night and give birth? And we're going to tie you up to a birthing machine on this popular program here. And I was like, yeah, no sweat, stick me down for it. So the fact that like, it was just, yeah, no bother, gonna bring my big mate and we'll have a bit of crack. To go from that to where I was. And I think things like the anxiety, where it's just like a muscle. For me, I sort of, not that I did it right for me, where I put myself in situations like, say, a restaurant, because a restaurant, going for a meal where you had ordered a meal and you had to wait for it and you knew you couldn't get up and leave. That used to give me real anxiety. And it was even like going to hairdressers or whatever, where you had to sit and your appointment was next or whatever. So when I was going through my bad panic attacks, I would have put myself somewhere that actually caused a slight panic attack and I just sat through it. And every time I sat through it, I give myself a wee pat in the back. So I would have went to like a coffee shop and had a coffee but no food. And then a week or two later, I would have went to a coffee shop and had a panini, and I might have had half of it, and then I walked out. And my friends, I lived with a couple of mates years ago, and they were very good at, I was open and honest with them and said, listen, I'm struggling with anxiety here, it's buckling me. Partly because, again, with fitness, you had to be this high five group hug guy that was always, when I was a personal trainer, I loved working one-to-one with guys, but the clubs were always like, can you not do circuits? Can you not take a spin class, whatever? And I was like, I hadn't thought of that. If I have to take an induction with 3 people, I'm nearly thrown up out the back. Went through a hard time of it. But then I think as you get older, you start to realize that stuff matters less and less, and it just doesn't bother you as much. And the big thing from that, actually, for me, and you'll know this because you do a bit, is the jiu-jitsu. And the jiu-jitsu guys, and it's always hard to talk, for people who don't do jiu-jitsu and are listening to this, it's always hard to understand it. It's like trying to explain a rave, unless you've actually been in the middle of that,
Yeah.
you don't really know what it is. My coach always says it has to be felt, not telt. But for me, the likes of the jiu-jitsu,
It's like a primal release into it. You
Yeah,
actually feel part of the world after a class. Like,
totally. And then for me, it was like I have had full blown panic attacks in competition mid spar where I have just thought I am going to collapse here. I'm going to not. But I've still went back and competed again, and I've went back and I've done well. And because this is the thing of you put yourselves in situations like that where some guy twice your size is trying to choke you out, and if you can survive that and get out of it, then you give yourself a pat in the back and go, actually, that's I did okay there. And then the next time you get better, and then you learn to relax and you learn to breathe. And again, for a lot of guys, I think they just need that outlet, whether it's say strength training or mountain biking or jiu-jitsu or whatever. I think we're cavemen and we need to use adrenaline in a positive way that isn't stress and emails and Zoom and Skype and all this sort of stuff.
it's very strange because like I had a very similar when I could remember I would come home from work some days where I would be quite a kind of student facing job because I was in a university at the time, and I would be like get everything I needed on the way home so I wouldn't need to go back out at night. I can
Mm,
remember thinking the times my mom would say to me, just go get a pint in a pub and sit there with a paper so nobody bothers you.
yeah,
Because I couldn't be in that, like, I felt so awkward being in a pub with people in that social setting. If it was work related, I could do it.
yeah,
If it was like part of the job, yeah, but I know what you mean, that horrible feeling, that sort of stress and that sort of anxiety of like, oh God, they're looking at me, they're judging me, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah, you found the right way rather than just doing the tablets all the time. I mean, I had
Well,
to try
yeah.
antidepressants for a while. I mean, did you ever think going down that road?
No, I remember going to do it because I did a lot of fitnessy type courses when I was young, and I remember going to a course and I knew it was one of those ones you had to stand up. All these icebreaker things. You had to say, "Oh, I'm
Oh
okay,"
God,
and you were doing it with back then. Half the people there were like Taibo instructors and circuits instructors. And I just wanted to help people understand strength on a one-to-one basis. That was just my bag. But the courses were always it was a personality test all the time, and it just wasn't me. And I remember the doctor had me on beta blockers, and I forgot them or forgot to take them, and then I was panicking that I forgot to take my tablets, and I thought I don't want to be panicking over panic. There's bound to be a better way to do this. So I did some of the say the hypnosis sort of stuff, and I don't sort of like you said at the start. I don't know if it was overly brilliant, other than you just got to chat to someone. Um, and that was just nice to sort of let it out. The other side of it is when you realize that other people have had the same thing. So when I started personal training, a lot of people would have said, "Oh, I'm on medication for my depression or my anxiety." I was like, "Hold on there. Everyone seems to have a hard time of it." It was near like Instagram before Instagram. Everyone looked great on the outside, but there was that underlying sort of
yeah.
problem.
Crumbling.
And it
It's like painting crumbling brickwork. It
totally,
looks okay for a wee bit.
yeah, totally.
So when I mean, going from that to be, I mean, that change, that transformation alone is amazing. Some people just hit the drink and drugs or don't go out again, or they kick off and go into violence. If they start bullying people to try avoid any sort of connections, and there's people can go all down these dark paths. But then you were put in one of the most stressful situations where you went through the very unfortunate deaths of your parents. You then had the marriage, then you had the birth of your kid, then you had the business around. Well, I think it was 2000 you started. How did you deal with that then? Did you use the teachings from the sort of panic attack situations to kind of know, right, I need to keep a routine of being healthy, I need to be set everything up for the birth of the child, but I also need to make sure that I'm doing my strength stuff, I'm doing the jiu-jitsu, how do you make sure, like for new dads listening, how did you make sure that you had your life set up to avoid slipping back and
Yeah,
needing, struggling at that point?
totally.
Because you've done an awesome, you're running a business with two kids. That's mental,
Yeah,
especially.
I think a big part. My older brother struggled bad. We all, like my dad and my older brother especially, struggled badly with like the panic attacks. And I remember my older brother stopped drinking and smoking. I've never smoked or anything, but he stopped drinking and smoking on like the same day and went for like 7 years. And he would have trained.
Jeez.
Yeah, he would have trained like twice a day, and he was a total machine. And then he went away on holiday and had a sip of beer or something. Then by the Monday he got back, I think he was on 60 fags a day and a bottle of vodka for breakfast. And just the extremes. So for us, my dad had permanently told us, oh, you're just like me, you're addictive personality. And I don't know how true an addictive personality is, because someone else said to me, it's just, you just get told that and then you start to believe it yourself. So for me, I always thought, yeah, I do have an addictive personality, but I always sort of aimed it towards health and fitness. So for me, it was nutrition and stuff, and just studying and training. Um, and I used to own a gym actually with a couple of mates years ago, and we were doing a lot of hours. And I remember doing a lot of hours and thinking, I can't, I have to improve my nutrition here, because you're maybe living on coffee and sort of a bit of sugar here and there just off the cuff to keep you going. And like for me now, I am busy now and I've got a lot going on, but my nutrition and training are so good. I just feel like I can deal with anything. Like I'm maybe up, I was up 5:30 yesterday morning doing sort of online stuff for my online clients, because I can get a couple of hours in before the kids. And then last night at maybe 10:30 was doing a YouTube video, um, just on training sort of stuff. So, but I find it's just, you just get into the way of it. Um,
So how did you like a lot of people read all these parenting books and these Oprah book clubs and all this kind of stuff in part. How did you establish that kind of routine? Did you kind of just let things naturally fall their own way? I mean, because kids need that set structure and the routine, and they need to know when they're getting their snack, and they need to have their playtime and all that kind of stuff. So how do you fit that around like your clients and your day-to-day stuff, and just making sure that you get your own time to go to the gym and stuff? Because you do jiu-jitsu strength stuff, but then you also teach clients, and then you've got to have your sort of date nights and all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
How did you figure all of that out? Because that makes me just my head hurt just thinking about it, but you're living this.
Well, my wife's gonna laugh when she listens to this. She goes, "What date nights? What date nights are he talking, what's he talking about?" Yeah, it's funny. Like, so like I say, I always, when I was in my teens, it was all about training, and when I was in my twenties, it was, I became a personal trainer in like 2003, and I changed from a fitness instructor, and it was always about getting in good shape and working for the magazines, and I wrote the ebooky type stuff. And then when I hit my 30s, I was doing a lot of calisthenics and training, and just still learning everything about training. I said gym with a couple of mates. I ran a nutrition course at one stage. I tutored a wee bit in sort of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And when I hit my 40s, I said, you know what? When I hit my 40s, it's all about work-life balance. So I was 40 in April, and everything was about getting my work-life balance set up to live the dream. So I do live the dream, and I'm people say to me now, like, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm like, I'm 40, you know? So my average day is sort of, I wake up in the morning, maybe do some online work for my online guys, um, do a wee bit on the iPad, do it on the computer, have maybe a bit of food, and then I have a couple of clients come and train with me in the morning. So I actually combine. I just says, you know what, these guys will, they're going to train with me a couple of days a week. I'll have a retainer set up for them. One of them actually is a British hairdresser. He won it 3 years. He's climbed Everest, and he's a gay guy in his 60s. One of my top friends, a true gent, and he trains me. And then my other training partner is a South African world champion kickboxer who also does jiu-jitsu. He won the Europeans a couple of times, and he owns a
That's a
couple
bit of a mix.
so these, it's funny because one of them's, like I say, the 60-year-old 5'6" her salon owner, and the other one's a 6'3" South African kickboxing weapon. That's my two training partners. So I train with them in the morning, and I do a bit of daddy daughter time. Jen maybe trains, and then I'll take a couple of clients. So I still do a wee bit of one-to-one, but I have a gym at my house, so I have a couple of garages and converted the big garage. So I do a couple of clients, and then I go to jiu-jitsu. So when I was jiu-jitsu in regular, I was doing maybe 10, 12 hours a week. Um, I get back from jiu-jitsu and maybe take one or two other clients, and then do a bit of online stuff. So I now work. I will not take on any more new clients. That's me done pretty much with personal training, because I've got my regulars. I got my online business is good. And if, I would never put more business in front of family time. So to me, it's like someone wants in with me for an hour, but that's not, it couldn't pay me, because that's where I get daddy daughter time. We go up the reservoir, or me and Jen will go for a walk with the kids around the block or whatever. So, and yeah, there was financial things had to happen there. There was a year or two where I did take a bit of a hit, where I bend like some my small groups that I used to train, or I just took out hours that I didn't want to work, and I knew jiu-jitsu was such a good thing for keeping my headspace. And rather than going out on a Saturday night and getting drunk, I would rather go and spar with my mates on a Tuesday afternoon. So it just became a healthier pursuit, you know. And Jen totally sees it. She sees that when I'm strength training and when I'm jiu-jitsuing, everything else falls into place. You know, you're a happier person. You're easier to live with. Um, so yeah, I have hit the sweet spot.
Do you think it's sort of easier to have it now because the kids have a set routine? You know, they get up at a certain time. They have to have their bed. They have to have their bath. They have to have their playtime, their snacks, etc. Do you think it's easier to live that kind of life because you know that you have to fit around your other stuff around them? You know, they
Well,
become the focus. So it's not like you've got 24 hours. You've got maybe
yeah.
6 hours or whatever.
The big thing with kids, I think, is not letting them. You're still the parents, and I train. The great thing, like I have trained so many clients over the years with so many different backgrounds, and one of my girls was so worked a lot with hard kids, you know, kids who've been expelled when they were young and everything else. And she always said the biggest problem for a lot of parents is they become their kid's best friend, or they try and just let the kid rule the routine. And we didn't, you know, we were very of, you know, and our kids are great because they sleep through the night and they're at a good age, but they do go by our routine. Um, the other thing is myself and Jen, like she was a chartered accountant, and I remember Jen being stressed out and coming home in tears and just under pressure. And then she started getting in good shape, like really good shape. Um, and then so we now share the studio. So while one of us is in the studio, maybe personal training, the other one's got the kids. So our kids are just, so it's, you know, we just sort of do shifts like that. Um, so we just put happiness. I said to Jen, you know, just you are in great shape. Girls want to train with you. Um, Jen does chin ups like 35 kg hanging off her, and it's probably 3 stone lighter now than when we met. But so she's a full client base, and we just alternate our clients. And
I remember that transformation video she put up. That was just like,
so
I wish
yeah,
I
yeah.
could even start that, you know?
It's funny because Jen, say, was an overweight accountant, skipped sport in school, played the violin and all this sort of stuff, whereas I was more sporty. So when I met Jen, someone actually said to me, because she was carrying a wee bit of weight, and we were out on a night out, and someone said to me drunk, it was a girl I knew years ago, she said, "Oh, I thought you would have been with some skinny gym chick." And I always thought, well, what? That's a bit of a really shallow sort of dicky comment, you know. Thought nothing of it then, sort of forgot about it. But I remember being in Jen's mum's, and she wanted to try on a dress because and she couldn't get into it. She started crying, and I says, right, let's do this properly. You know, we hadn't been going out that long. She was going to the gym, and we doing a couple of sessions the odd time with one of the personal entertainers in the gym. And I says, right, let's get on this and let's improve your food. So Jen then did a bit of a transformation. Now that transformation was just slow and steady, and just small tweaks that I would do with my guys, where you never feel like you're on any sort of nutrition plan or diet or training plan. And then Jen did a photo shoot, and she did the photo shoot after after Alex was born, and everyone just went, "Fuck me, look at Jen, she's amazing." You know, Jen was ripped, she was in great shape. And the amount of messages and texts I got of like a girl messaged me and said, "Neil, what does Jen eat?" And I says, "Well, just normal food. She doesn't do a diet or anything. You know, she's just tweaked a few things over, you know, a time process." Says, she said, what sort of stuff would she have for lunch?" I says, "Oh, today there she was eating beef sausages." And the girl was like, "Where does she get her beef sausages?" And I was like, that is not why Jen is in shape. You know, Jen is, and this is something I would be known for, is consistency. It's like when it's jujitsu or it's weights or it's business or whatever. Uh, you know, we would be the king and queen of consistency. Whatever we decide to do, you just sort of chip away at it, and then all of a sudden you reap the rewards of it. You know, and that is
So why do you think that is? Like, why do you think people look for that external source, that kind of, I have to buy something in it, I have to find this like fountain of like fitness, you know, rather than looking
water.
going, just stop eating lard for breakfast, you know, like why do you think it is that we, like, guys go wrong in the gym, you know, program hopping, and they see every latest craze and go, oh, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, you know, I've got to drink my own piss, I've got to like
Yeah,
climb mountains in the morning, that why can we not just do like you, because your programs are amazing about the simplicity and the little fixes and the livableness of it. I don't even know if
totally.
that's even a slight word, but
So when I started training, we, that was 1995. I sort of started training. You didn't really have Google in the same way. Also, you do now. You didn't have apps or whatever. So you would have got, I seen us going to secondhand bookstores and maybe chipping in, me and the older brother together to maybe buy a book that had a bit of a program, and you stuck with it, and that was just what you had to do because that's what the program said. And we didn't really have access, to anything else. Um, so we learned to be consistent, and if you want to be true to something, you have to go with it the whole way. Um, so yeah, it's something I've always had in the back of my head. If you want to do anything, just be consistent. So I was never jiu-jitsu is a great example because there's guys who go like, oh, how you beat me at this or whatever, or guys who started before me, I could maybe beat them up. It's purely just because I turn up more often. You just have to turn up more often. But I read a great quote before, and it said, if you tell people, say you're successful, and people ask you why are you successful, and you say, well, I did the little things small and often, and they all added up. Where if you tell someone today, if you want to be successful, do the small things little and often, they'll never believe it's big enough, you know. But it's true,
Mhm.
it is. It's just the small things little and often, whether it's just a tweak in your food or just turning up for a workout or whatever it is. Because even when I don't want to train, I'll still train. It's like brushing my teeth, it's just one of those things I do. Um, because that was
I
another
mean,
great quote I read where it said, like, if you only trained when you felt like it, you never would. So
oh God, I
just turn up,
definitely.
and then get something happening, and then that something could become something else, and you just layer it up.
I mean, you seem to have like everything perfect. You've got the kids, you've got the wife that you adore, you've got your business, you've got the sweet spot of like clients and that. Now, most people would have been content in that. What was the inspiration then to create to create the social media platform? Because I love your reasoning for it, but I mean, could you just share? Because some people do it because they want to become famous and influencers and all this kind of stuff. What was your inspiration for starting it?
So the big thing, yeah, and the big thing for me, if you want to start something, start with that you'll be consistent with. So when I was going to start Amateur Dad, I thought, I could start a blog, but that's more hassle because you have to log into WordPress, you have to do this, that, and the other. Um, Facebook for me just seemed like an easy way of doing something, and I thought if I'm going to start this is the way I look at everything now, and it was the same with jiu-jitsu. Like I tried to do jiu-jitsu years ago, and my club closed, and it was too far away or whatever. So when I started back at the club I'm in now, it was easy to attend often, and it's the same with starting up my Facebook page. I knew I could do content easily and often, and it's the same with my YouTube. So I started up a YouTube channel there, and I thought if I'm going to start a YouTube, so I've been studying videography and photography and all this sort of stuff. I thought if I'm going to start something, I'm going to start it with the idea that I don't finish it. So make it so easy that it's easy to do consistently. And then the other thing is with the likes of the dad blog there, the feedback's always so good. You get a lot of fun. Like I've had guys come up to me in the street because it's Amateur Dad now, but it used to be Team Dilf, and people coming up and going, "Oh, you're Team Dilf," and just at me in the street and stuff. It's just crazy. Um, that,
I
you
did. I did find that was an interesting original name when I seen it. I thought, oh,
yeah, so
he's going to find the social media dark spots pretty soon.
yeah. But yeah, I get a lot of dick pics, or I did get a lot of dick pics and like fully spread bum pictures and everything, like prostate on show. So the team Dilf was originally a joke. A guy said to me in jiu-jitsu, like he says, "Oh, there's team Dilf in," because I just had my eldest, and I'd done a Facebook post on my normal Facebook that seemed to go down quite well with people, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's dead funny. You should start a page." And I thought I might start a page, and that's sort of where it sort of led on to. But it was also Daddy interprets little female, so that was the other sort of play on the. So I would have had conversations with Alex, obviously made up because she was only like a couple of months old at the time. Um, but I knew that the longevity of Team Dilf, yeah, from a branding point of view, the Amateur Dad just seemed a wee bit more family friendly. And then when I was redesigning, so I taught myself web design and a few other sort of things there during COVID. So I rebuilt that website I have now.
Oh, you did that yourself?
I did that myself. Yeah,
That's bloody awesome! Like
yeah.
that's really well done. Like,
I'm a torture perfectionist. When I've had websites in the past, I've always like, I want to change that, or I want to do that, or I want to upgrade that. And you always had to go to a web guy to get it done. So I see myself as a bit of a human Swiss Army knife. So if I like the idea of learning something, there's other things you would maybe pay to get coached on or whatever. And But I thought, you know what, I like the idea of learning how to do it myself, because then I can always go in and do it. So when I built my website, I thought, yeah, professional coach, amateur dad, and it all started to make sense because people were going to my personal training website before, and then there was like the Team Dilf, and it just sort of didn't make sense, the two. Whereas now it all sort of ties together, and you're like, oh, he is a professional coach and takes his job very seriously, and that's what he's done for years. But actually, he's also a human and a dad, and there's that angle to it. So then, actually, last year I had a business mentor. So I am in this fitness game a long time, and again, coming up to I was 39, and I thought I'm going to get a business mentor here just to see, because when you're in your business, you need to take a step out sometimes. And one of the things they said to me on this sort of mentorship was, "Who are your favorite clients?" And I said, "Oh, we Kevin I train with. There's Roy, a guy I train. I've got my James, got Will, Big Sheldon, and it was all men." And they said to me, "Why are you training groups of women? Why are you doing so many women?" I thought, "Why am I training so many women?" So I started then training aiming my training, especially my online thing now, is all for guys and it's all for men. So then with my brand, and it made sense to have my professional coaching page, my amateur dad page, and then you get dads who follow the amateur dad page go, oh, I maybe get him for professional coaching. And that was the online. So it's a bit of the amateur dad thing is a great blog for me just to have a release, but it's also a great advertisement for my coaching sort of stuff, because I can stick up the odd post and say, listen, here's one of my dads has done really well and he's lost weight or whatever. So it seems like I don't come from branding and I don't come from marketing or anything, but I love the study of it and I love just the evolution of it all. And
No,
yeah,
I mean, I love that outlook of it, like that kind of the connection between the two, and it was that kind of dad's probably following it and going, oh, he's showing the importance of fitness. He's showing me the importance of setting routines and stuff. I know he does online coaching, brilliant. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of guys. We don't even know how to begin to get fit. And you're bringing the humor and showing that you're not infallible. You're not one of these like sitting on the clouds playing your harp kind of thing.
yeah,
You're talking about like going taking your kids out and like them using you for Florida's lava games and all this kind of stuff.
yeah. I
So
think
what it's been? Oh, sorry.
um, I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I think that's the big thing with my coaching now is when I was a coach in my early 20s, especially, it was like food is fuel, and you just have to train. If you're not deadlifting 200 for reps, then what is even the point in being alive? So fitness back then sort of consumed my life, and I say this a lot now. Now it is improves my life. So the guys that I train now are guys that don't have time to go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 hours a day or whatever, or they haven't the time to try and study it the way I would maybe like to study stuff. So when they, with coaching, they're able just to essentially plug into the matrix and tap into my sort of experience. But they also know that, I won't be saying them just eat chicken and rice 6 times a day. I'll be saying, here's how you eat with your kids and your family life. So I think people like that side of it. The big thing with my coaching, I have an idea of my perfect client. And so I try to design the website, and when you see the video and stuff on the website of the guy I want to train, and the guys now that I train, I do the online consultations and I get them to fill out application forms and stuff. So it is the right guy. If it's not the right guy or someone I think doesn't suit, I'm going to try and send them the right way. But I try and get guys who sort of who sort of fit a certain criteria. And to me, I train now. Anyone I train, either my real life dudes. I still have a couple of girls, but it's mostly guys. Um, are guys who totally inspire me, and I come away from their sessions going, "Oh, I'm pumped here." And like one of my online guys last year, he's getting ready to run 100 miles here, and I think he's allocated 30 hours for it, and he's doing it to raise money for charity. So after I have a chat with him on Zoom, I'm like, I'm pumped, and I go and train, and so a big part of my career now, especially, is like um, training the people that I want to train. And by doing that, I've ended up attracting more of the type of people I want to train. It was like a big lad I put a photo up of a guy there recently who's lost 5 stone. He's a director of a company.
Oh, that was some transformation.
He's done brilliant, and he is under a lot of pressure. He has a big company here in the UK. Always struggled to get any sort of consistency, but Yeah, he's about. He texted me earlier. Actually, he hit 15 stone there today, and he had been up in the just over 20ish stone. But because he's put his photo up on like his LinkedIn and stuff, then a couple of other guys who are in the same boat as him have messaged me, and then I got them started. So where I used to train an army of people and tried to please everyone, now I've decided who are my favorite people I want to train, and what is the best system for them to do. So it's nearly like I've developed an online steak restaurant, and if someone comes to me wanting the vegan option, I'll send them somewhere else because I'm like, no, this is I only deal in this steak. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a big part of businesses now. I suppose everyone tries to please everyone, whereas I'm just very aware of, you know, do what I enjoy, and the rest sort of looks after itself. And your what's that they say? Your vibe attracts your tribe, essentially.
I love that actually, because that's something I
It's a
struggle with.
women
Like
somewhere, not mine.
I kind of just throw stuff out and just hope like my social media, I would get murdered by like a social media manager. I have no idea what I'm doing social media stuff. People keep asking me, "Oh, how are you not more well known?" It's like I have no idea. I post it out and I hope it gets somewhere, like you know. But I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you can't be a master of all things. You have to have people you can rely on and people you can go for the support network and stuff. But do you think you're because through the social media, is this kind of strengthened your relationship with Jen? Has it made helped you make sense of what the kids do by people commenting on it and seeing that it is normal for what they're doing because people are relating their stories with their own kids? You know, do you think it's helped you become a better father in any way?
Yeah, and this is the thing, like, and I hope when people read like my amateur dad blog, and it sort of gives them a bit of an insight that it's not perfect. And a lot of people have said to me because in a lot of ways they might look and say, "Oh, this guy's happily married and all the kids and everything else," and then you do put up stuff that's maybe they go, "Oh, I didn't realize, you are actually sleep deprived and everything else." I remember walking into jiu-jitsu and I just had my eldest, and a friend of mine stopped me and said, "Oh, kid and everything," and we're just a bit of chatting. And he sort of leaned in and said, "It's shit, isn't it?" And I went, "It is shit." Because, and this is a thing, and it's hard to say, to be honest, because when you're a new dad, now the other people relate to this sort of stuff, and you can't say it, but because you're not allowed to say it. But when you have your first kid, it is hard. You don't realize how selfish you were and how much you enjoyed your own time, and all of a sudden now you're sleep deprived. You have to work to someone else's routine for a bit. Um, and it's hard, and you're not allowed to say it's hard because there are other people who are, whether they've lost kids or they're trying for kids or whatever, you should be constantly grateful and everything else. And it's always hard to say, listen, I'm not playing down your situation or anything else. I'm just saying it is hard, as a new parent. And I don't think anyone really, because anything you read online is just, oh, you've just had your first kid. This is amazing that your life will grow and everything else. But it's a hard slog. And those sort of first 4, 5, 6 months are hard work. Now, don't get me wrong, I would never change it and I absolutely love my kids, but it's just, I think when someone, like when he said to me, "It's shit, isn't it?" There was something just clicked with me of like, it is hard, but no one ever says that until you're a dad. And yeah, say you always have to be seen to be constantly grateful for it, and you are, but it's a hard time.
There's that famous quote. I can't think who said it. It was something like, "If you haven't told your kid to fuck off at least 34 times a day, you're lying or you're a witch." It's just,
Yeah, totally.
and you never think of your parents kind of going, "Oh, will you shut up?" or "Will you go play outside? Just get out my sight."
Totally.
When you're a teenager, you get told that all the time, but you never. But that's the thing. You always think everybody's so magical, and I think that's what I think I love about your stuff. It's you're showing guys who are new dads, but also dads who are current dads, but dads who people who are maybe talking about it, the joys, but also the scary side of kids. You know, the kind of they're teaching you about kids before we go through it. I think that's what you need. A lot of guys is to see the
I think this is the thing, if if people like me don't say that it's shit and it's hard, then some dad could be having his first kid today, and everywhere he's read, and everyone has told him it's amazing, you'll love it, blah blah, and then he's a week or two in, maybe working shifts, sleep deprived, and could be considering, all sorts of like, you hear guys commit suicide and all sorts of stuff because no one's just being honest with them. And I think that's the problem with the world at the minute. You can't be honest without being judged for being honest. And
Mm.
um, so
Well,
I
it's like women with postnatal depression. They're always
totally,
told like, "Oh,
you're
it's a
not allowed to have it.
miracle."
Yeah, it's nearly like, yeah, how dare you have postnatal depression because you've got this beautiful, wonderful child. It's like, I'm not saying it's not a beautiful, wonderful child. I'm just saying these are hard struggles, and if people just give everyone else less of a hard time, we're all humans on a spinning ball going through the world, through the atmosphere here. It's just be nice to each other. It's yeah,
And that's the best thing about it. It's like you show the joys, but you also show the bad bits about like the kid putting cat litter in your washing machine, and
no,
all the strange things they do, and the questions they ask. I mean, I've got three. My sister's got three wee ones, so I've got like two nieces, two nieces, two nephews, and a niece, and the stuff they ask you, and the queries, and it's the why, but why, but what's that? No, why, and you're kind of like, oh God Almighty, I'm so glad when I can hand them back, but I
yeah.
like being.
They
It
say
makes me
kids
want to
are
be
like,
a better person because
yeah,
you want to avoid being that uncle or father that they go, oh, here he comes. I don't want to speak to him, but I mean, I want to be the guy they go, oh, brilliant, he's coming, right? He's going to take me here and he's going to do this or whatever.
so they say kids are like farts. You don't mind your own.
Now, here's a weird question. I know it would be difficult, but do you ever wish you had boys?
I actually get asked this a lot because I come from, I played a bit of football, did a bit of jiu-jitsu, strength training.
Uh,
It's all
I couldn't see an answer for that. I was interested because I know you do a lot of stuff, but then you also seem to love being, the father daughter connection.
yeah. Like for me, I think actually there's a couple of things. I see Jen's dad was around today. Actually, he just called in for some stuff, and Jen and her dad would be really close. And that dad, they say, I know I've trained a couple of women over the years, and they always thought that boys grow up and disappear, whereas the girls always stay quite close. So this is why girls like to have daughters in a lot of ways. For me, it didn't matter. It maybe would have years ago because if you had boys, they did boy stuff and girls did girl stuff. But my girls, like, we go into the forest and we climb trees and we arse about. And I play jiu-jitsu with them, and we go skateboarding, and it's
Are
the
you passing guard on a 4-year-old?
pretty much they don't realize they're learning a bit of wax on, wax off. They don't quite know why they did it, but so the boys or girls doesn't matter to me. To me, they're just little great humans, and
Hmm.
it doesn't matter because again, sort of like I was saying with the fishing thing with my dad earlier, like we have a couple of reservoirs quite close, but I could take the girls fishing or whatever. I would never think that that's a boy thing, or if they want to do it, that's just what we do.
And I
Uh,
suppose that's the thing we do in society, isn't it? Is we kind of define things as a boy's job, a man's job, a girl's job, your role, your responsibility. Women should be the mother, where guys are the breadwinners. All these kind of BS tags that we put on people.
See, I think
Yeah,
with that is like if people want to be that, like it's like the whole feminism thing, or whatever it is. And I'm not educated enough on this to talk about it really, but some women love being housewives, but they also love being CEOs of companies. Yeah, I think putting labels on people. If you want to be a house husband and look after the kids, that's brilliant. Whatever works for your family unit is what works. My mom would have been very good that way. Like anything we want to do, she says, "Yeah, you know what? You just go on ahead and do it." And sure, if it fails, you can just start again. And there was never a pressure. It was
I
just
love that.
you'd rather have a go at it than always dream. It's like the Jim Carrey one. He talks about his dad being an accountant. I'm sure you've seen that. Have you seen the YouTube on Jim Carrey?
I think so.
It's an old classic, but he gets up and he talks about his dad went and took a safe job, and that job was an accountancy job, and then they laid him off, and he could have been a great comedian or whatever, but it's that idea of, what, just do whatever role you want to do or whatever purpose you want to have, then go and chase that. And if you're this is the thing that was always said to me when I was young as well, was if you find what you enjoy doing, which for me was the fitness thing, and you do it often and you do it well, you'll get good at it. And then when you get really good at it, people will pay you money to learn how you got good at it. And then that becomes you're getting paid to do the thing you love. And if that's, it doesn't matter what real title that is. If my kids turn around and says, "Oh, Dad, I want to be a YouTuber," like I'd say, yeah, right. How do we get you becoming a great YouTuber? It's because you just have to decide and what is you enjoy doing. If my kid wanted to, become a professional fisherman, right? Okay, how do you become the best at it and make a living at it so you can enjoy doing it? you know? So that would be my mindset of always just, okay, well, how do we just do it?
And see, that's the best kind of parent is somebody that kind of says there and goes, well, if you make a mistake, learn from it, start again. You know, you only fail when you don't get back up or you don't learn from it. You know, it's like jiu-jitsu. Once you've been choked out, you kind of go, how do I stop that? You know,
Exactly.
it's like you go, well, how do I stop getting choked out in that situation? You're like, well, you made the mistake, let them pass your guard like 4 steps before that. You know, it's
Totally.
you're like, all right, and you learn from it. But a lot of times parents do say to a kid, no, don't be silly, don't go after your dream, go for the easy life, you know, don't take the risk because it's such a slim margin. But do you think like that this kind of attitude of like showing them, like spending time with them, taking the videos of them, putting on the Facebook, it's helped them come out their shell? Has it kind of let them kind of you build a deeper connection? I know it's a bit stupid to say that because you're a parent, obviously, but
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Do you think it's kind of helped your relationship more? Do you think they're gonna, when they're 18, kind of go, "I was a what? What do you mean? I was a social media star." What do you think what do you mean their reaction's going to be to this when they're a bit older? Do you think they're going to play into it more? Are they enjoying being in front of the camera and
They
kind of
do,
having that?
yeah. Yeah, like a lot of the yeah, like if I take videos or anything, even if I'm taking a video, they'll stand there and just say cheese throughout the whole process. I'm like, I'm not taking a photo, I'm taking a video. Um, I always there is a thing, obviously you're putting your kids online and you always have to be conscious of it. But I think with the posts, like I'm trying to make it more about the dad life was always where I was
Mm,
trying to go with it. So you can nearly like like the Ozzy Osbourne show back in the day and stuff, where it was more about him and Sharon than it was about nearly the kids and stuff. But a friend of mine actually, his son died years ago, and son was like 4.5, I think. Would break your heart, but they went viral here in Ireland, and part of my when I was starting the Facebook page was I always thought it's good to have a big audience who love what you do and buy into your personality, because if you ever needed help for whatever reason, they might rally around and give you that help. So I always thought, if I build a big audience and then say down the line one of my kids wants to do something or needs sort of support for whatever they're doing, you can say, listen guys, my eldest has started up this little blog or whatever it is, can we go and support her or whatever? So um, yeah, I'm not too sure what the future holds with it. I think you just sort of roll with the punches and see. I haven't actually really thought of it. I'd love to maybe work with brands or something, and do something bigger. But at the minute, there's the great thing about the amateur dad is it's just a hobby thing. So there's no
mm.
pressure on me to produce
I think
content.
that's
You know,
I think that's the thing. You're not playing a character. You're not going out and trying to be something you're not. You're just showing the joys, the hardships, the weirdness, the downright bizarre side of being a dad, and you're opening it up to people who are thinking, "Oh, this is what my kids are like," and they can have that connection, and they can network with people on your forum, and you can kind of show them what's coming. If you've got like a younger kid, and you're making us realize, like, you're opening up a community of dads, new dads, people who are maybe just found out their wife's pregnant or whatever, and that wasn't there before. And it's great to see that, and all your comments are filled with people laughing, going, "Oh, that's what my kid did," and it's.
yeah,
I think you're giving people that outlet who are maybe at home with their baby for the first time, going, "Oh my god, what do I do? This is so fragile." They can see somebody that's gone through it and getting that experience. I mean, do you think it's helped strengthen your connection with Jen during this time? I mean, how do you keep this a romance side of it? Is there romance?
yeah,
Because I remember my sister saying, she goes, I was like, "Oh, did you get a jump?" Because it was like her birthday, this morning, taking the mick, and she's like, "It's my birthday, not his." And I was like, "All right," but I see a lot of people kind of just seem to adopt the parent life. They kind of forget it's the relationship with them as well and their own time. Do you find there is time to go off and do stuff on your own?
It's funny actually. Someone messaged the page, offer me like a complimentary night away for me and Jen, just because of a big audience. They says, "Oh, sure, come on." So the odd time you'll get these sort of things, but it's hard not as parents to sort of say, you know what, if we get through this next 6 months, and then we'll be able to do such and such, or get just another 6 months. You're constantly pushing it forward. the big thing for me and Jen, like I am useless when it comes to romance. I'm just not good at it. But I think the most important thing I would say this to my daughters as well, is to marry the right person. And then it just works. There's so many, say, dad forums or whatever I'm on. You read some of the stories and you just go, why are you in that relationship? That is not the person you need to be with. And,
Mm.
say when I met Jan, so our life is easy because we, we, we started a family as the two right people to do it, as opposed to having a band-aid baby for a poor relationship or whatever. And
That's a scary thing, isn't it? People think a baby will actually save the relationship, or
yeah,
they want to have a baby and they'll just pick the first guy that's
really,
available, kind of thing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that here. I mean, nowadays with the future of our kids, they're going to be the next generation who are expected to learn how to code, how to use YouTube, and all this kind of stuff. And at the moment, we can't even get some parents to be able to not smoke during pregnancy, not,
yeah,
like, to be there for their kid or to chat to them and explain why they shouldn't be going to McDonald's for breakfast, or like, that they cannot ask questions if they struggle. And we're still struggling in that aspect of it. So I think this is why your sites are really good, because you're showing people you can be a parent, but you can go and get in shape, you can be happy, you can be in a happy marriage, that you can be a good parent. You don't need to give up your career just because you want to do this. I mean, you built a business, a thriving business, and now you've built a hobby, which I think it was something like a couple of 100 million have seen it already. I mean, that's phenomenal. Do you still look at it as a hobby, or
yeah.
would
Like
you want to do it?
the amateur dad thing just grows and grows. I say some of the posts would reach millions, but because it's on Facebook, Facebook just stunt everything unless they want you to pay essentially for advertising, and I don't. The odd time I might boost a post for a fiver just to see what it does, but yeah. So some of the posts have went viral and stuff, and it's crazy. But a lot of guys, sort of like we were saying earlier, people will set up YouTubes and Facebook and blogs with the pure idea of trying to make money. And that for me was never the thing. It was always produce content, you enjoy doing it. It's like my YouTube at the minute. Actually did a YouTube and course there during COVID, because it was just firing courses, different courses. And I did a video editing course, I did a videographer and a photography course, because I just find cameras and photography quite interesting. So I set up a YouTube where I just thought, well, I can get to play with cameras here and buy new lenses and stuff, but I'll also give out some fitness tips. Now that YouTube channel can end up growing and becoming monetized, and it's the same with my dad blog, but it's not what I set out to do. And I think that's the big difference with what I've done is, you set out with the idea of creating content, providing value to people. Sort of like the same with your podcast. It's just one of those things. You're interviewing guys who interest you, and then you create loads of content, and then all of a sudden it's a big thing. So for me, it's the same with my Facebook page and like some of YouTube. It's just create the stuff you want to enjoy, and if it makes money down the line, brilliant. I shot myself in the foot actually a couple of times years ago, because I did have a fitness blog, maybe 15, could have been 15 odd years ago, and I gave it up because I ended up busy with the magazines, and I've had a few sort of things like a YouTube channel 15 years ago that I gave up, and I wasn't consistent with it. But I always had the idea in my head, oh, maybe set something up that will make money. Whereas now I don't think that way. It's just do the enjoyable thing, and if it makes money, brilliant. And if not, it's still, you've enjoyed it. It's been a rewarding process that way.
Well, now would seem a great time to talk about affiliate products. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore the products and services I recommend that will transform, improve, and evolve your life. I've set up some awesome deals with some amazing companies here. I will only recommend products I've tried or believe in, and all reviews are 100% honest. This is where I put the special offers, listener-exclusive deals, and discount codes that I am sent. There really is something for everyone here. It doesn't matter if you're buying for yourself, buying for a special person in your life, a special occasion, or whatever it is, you can find whatever you need here. Wide range of companies showcased on the page. Companies that will make you a better athlete, a better lover, a better man, better in all aspects of your life. You can access the page by going to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates or by clicking on the affiliates deal in the blue ribbon at the top of the website homepage. Note that I do not receive any information on you or whatever it is you buy. The company sent me a small thank you. It's a small commission for sending you to shop with them on my links. This does not inflate the price you pay and usually allows me to help showcase cheaper options that if you bought directly, as the affiliates are usually allowed into special deals, lower prices, and so much more. All your information is kept safe and secure with the company that you purchase from, and nothing is shared with me, so have at it. Finally, I would just like to say that if you do use any of my links, I just want to say a massive thank you, as I tend to use the money to make this podcast bigger and better, and I really appreciate your trust in my recommendations and being a fan of this show and trusting me enough and enjoying it that much that you want to use my links to purchase the goods that I recommend. Now, let's get back to the interview. I hope you enjoy this one. You always learn from anything you do, but it's something that a lot of people are struggling with just now is the whole COVID-19 sort of situation. Have you found anything changes with kids? Because I remember you put up that viral post where, it was like social distancing and the kids had built a fort not to speak to each other. And it's
Yeah.
does things change with, how have you adapted through this time? I mean, have you found anything really changed? Do the kids just kind of go, oh, I'm not allowed I can't go to the park. Oh, can I draw a picture instead? Or
Yeah.
has anything really, what did you say to adults who are struggling through this period just now, like new dads, mums, couples, whatever? How have you kind of adapted to this pandemic, or
We were very,
whatever you want to call it?
I say Jan was an accountant, that was her, she was a chartered accountant. So a lot of times for years, we are not flash. I have an old car. I've like a 12-year-old Range Rover job, one of these. And all we've done is work and save for a long time. And we kept saying, so we'll save and then we'll go, when the kids are a bit older, we'll do this holiday and we'll save and we'll get the kitchen done and we'll keep saving. So when the lockdown happened for us, it was there like, you know what, we can take time off here. We don't have to work. We don't have to do something quick for our business. It was just like, you know what, we can just take a step back. So I love lockdown because it gave me a chance to build a new website, do a load of courses, plug into the matrix essentially, and just learn a lot of stuff. And then it gave us a lot of time with the kids, so we could go out a lot and whatever. And yeah, the only thing they noticed was, oh, they maybe didn't see their wee cousin or whatever, or the park. They couldn't go to the park. But we're lucky that our kids are 4 and 2, so they maybe didn't notice it in the same way as some of the older kids. Um, but for us, it was just a bit of a holiday, to be honest. It was just nice downtime. And again, you always have to take the positives out of it. A lot of people could have just said, you know what, I'm going to start sitting in the house watching Netflix, drinking, smoking. I train a guy who owns a shop actually, and he said tobacco sales are through the roof, and there's an off license next door to him that literally had a queue non-stop. Their takings were up 50% at least. And whereas for me, I use lockdown. I was like, you know what? I've got the chance to train here. I've got weeks off. Like I've been self-employed 17 years. I don't get a lot of time off. I don't take a lot of time off. So it was lovely to have actual time to do stuff. So I restructured my whole online thing. I got out with the kids loads. Say I learned a few new skills, and yeah, I loved it. I think it'd be a lot harder if your kids are a bit older and they want to do some stuff. But a big thing that my mum said to me when I was a kid, I remember saying to her once, "Mum, I'm bored." And she says, "You're bored? That's a lack of imagination." And it always stuck with me. Like, if you're bored, it's your own fault. It's not an external thing you need. You need to start entertaining yourself. I don't know if I was just lazy parenting on her behalf.
No,
Uh,
I agree with that now. Like, now that I think about it, yeah. Back when I was bored, I would disagree with her. Like,
yeah. So yeah, and this is the thing as well. Like, bar not being able to go to jiu-jitsu, we have the gym in the house, and we've such a good system that it didn't really change for us. And again, I know other clients there, like the Big Iron. You saw the photo, the transformation of, like, he was able to spend more time with his family, and we get out walking the dog every morning rather than sitting in an airport getting a flight to the sort of UK. So for a lot of guys, I think it's always comes back to mindset. If something gets thrown at you, right, where's the positiveness? How do I spin it positive? What's the benefit, as opposed to the world owes you a favor.
and are you going to go back to jiu-jitsu when it reopens, or
I'm
do you
back
find
now.
it?
Yeah, we're back. So we're doing. We have like bubbles, so you have to train with the same couple of guys, and you have a WhatsApp group where you meet up. So we go and train together. But if anyone in our bubble got sick, then that bubble's out of jits. So it's our jiu-jitsu club is, they're, the way they are anyway. They're always super hygienic and they clean all the time, and they're always on
Mm.
top of it that way. But even after class, it's like, right, okay, that group 1, 2, and 3, they're off the mats, leave. Don't be socializing, don't be hanging about, wash your hands, temperature checks, all the rest of it. So um,
Are you rolling with masks on? Get the air, what is it, the oxygen training in there.
yeah, that's a myth. Funny enough,
I love that. It's like people are gonna. Did you see the doctor? He wore 6 masks on his face. He hooked himself up to like an oxygen testing machine,
okay.
and he was showing how like it doesn't matter how many masks I put on, it doesn't take away my mask and all this kind of stuff. And people are like, yeah, but we don't know if that's legitimate. We don't know how many masks he's wearing. And the people are like, how many more? Just wear a damn mask. It stops the spread. Just get on with it, and we could get back to a sort of normality.
Uh,
But I see, like, I love seeing all these guys wearing the face masks to do altitude training and all that, and you go, really, you know,
the study's done on that. That's for an Instagram post, that sort of stuff.
ah, oh, I hate watching it, and they kind of go, oh, it looks so cool, and you're like, yeah, it looks cool. It does nine. You may as well stick the money up your arse for all it's doing, like.
Exactly.
But are you going to get your kids involved in jiu-jitsu, do you think?
100%. One of the reasons I started jiu-jitsu was from being bullied as a kid, sort of quite badly in school, because I was a skinny kid in school. And bullying scares the shit out of me. My bully was murdered. One of my bullies.
Jeez.
He was murdered when he was 18. He was beat to death in North Belfast, and he'd hit a wrong guy, and the guy's brother beat him to death. Um, and another bully, I think, had a heart attack, and there was other ones maybe had drug overdoses and stuff. So I went to rough school in North Belfast, and grim there back, so those the late 80s, 90s and stuff, and yeah, it was a rough enough area. But I always thought, if I have kids, and I'd done a wee bit of jiu-jitsu, say, when I was younger, but I could never get into the routine because of my job, because the classes were always like Monday night and stuff. So when I started jiu-jitsu, I thought, right, I'm going to go to this club. It's a really, really well-known, well-established club. They have lunchtime classes, and if I start, I'm not going to stop. And that was about uh, 6, 8 months before my eldest was born. And I thought, I need my kids to know jiu-jitsu or some sort of self-defense. And so that's what originally started. I wanted to be able to just have enough of a skill set that I could teach them, how to get out of a headlock, or how to get out of, how to just defend yourself, bit of distance control. And then I became addicted and just ended up just going full beans.
It's
But
like have you seen the Gracie Combatives? Like they come out with a bit about how for women how to defend a guy using a seatbelt to choke them. How to fight back in a car. How
yeah,
if a guy's on top of you, how to get out of it, and how to if they're pushing against the wall. And you think, what are we teaching guys that girls are getting into this situation? But then there's
yeah,
I suppose there is creeps, and that's a great thing to do. And it also teaches they have that meeting friends and stuff like that, and they get the confidence from the physical side of it and all that as well. But what other skills do you think they should be taught? What are you looking forward to teaching your kids? Is there things that you'd like to get them involved in?
I think the big thing for me is I just want them to be great people. You always think just be well. Like my kids will be great anyway. They're only young, and it's like great manners and just like I always think of myself as I want to be my own hero. When you step out in the mats at a jiu-jitsu competition, or you hold a door for a granny at the shop, you always think I'm my own hero here, and I want to be a good person.
No.
And you nearly want to be a hero just so your kids see your actions and then they want to copy you. You know that way. So in
That's
terms,
I remember seeing my mom doing all this kind of stuff when I was
yeah,
younger, and
it's,
you just imitate it, don't you?
That's one of the things I actually say to my online guys and a lot of my clients is like, your kids should never see you diet or exercise. They should see you train and enjoy exercise. So I say, when our kids see me and Jen playing on the gymnastic rings, they'll come out and play on the gymnastic rings, and we'll have a bit of fun with them. And I say I'll throw them about doing some jiu-jitsu sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think just be anything they want to learn. I would just say, whatever it is you want to learn, have a go at it. But if you want to have a go at it, stick with it long enough. because you see these guys and they bring their kids to like a gymnastics class, and the kid says after half an hour, "I don't want to be here." Well, okay, and they take them out, and that's the end of it. Whereas I sort of think, you know what, let your kids try something, but if they're going to try it, let them stay in it for a bit until they get good at it. I can sort of see with my kids that the eldest will probably do more gymnastics, and the youngest will be more of a jiu-jitsu because she's very rough and tumble, and you can throw her about, and she's brilliant.
You
Um,
can identify jiu-jitsu people.
I
We're
think
usually the weird ones.
Yeah, but I just think, yeah, I think a self defense is massive, and I think jujitsu is brilliant because you're not getting punched in the face because that's quite sore. um, but
It's amazing, though. You can have that kind of, you can have somebody who's like prim and proper, a ballet dancer, and then you look at the next one and you're like, they're headbutting a wall and like punch, they're doing boxing and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, how are they brother and sister? And you go, oh well, it's
yeah, totally.
no,
So
yeah,
the martial arts would be a big one, I think, to have, and probably some sort of musical thing because again, what you learn from, say, you do a martial art or an instrument, say you pick up like Jen would have played violin, and I titted about a wee bit in the guitar, but you learn that whatever it is you want to get good at, you have to invest time and effort in. And once you realize that, you start to plan it, anything you want to do. If you want to start a business or whatever, it's just enjoy it and put the time in.
well, I've taken up far too much of your time already, but I mean, I'd love to have you back on. I mean, I can't believe it's an hour and a half because it was so much fun just sitting speaking to you. I knew you were an awesome guy, but just finding out more about your story really kind of blew me away by how much I wanted to kind of connect with you because I think we go back in the history. I've sent you emails and random things about how to compete and all that in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because that's something I'm struggling with is the competing in jiu-jitsu. It's a big thing for me to. I still get kind of anxiety about a lot of stuff, and I've talked myself out of stuff, which I regret now, and I really want to get to that point of just give it a go.
And
If
you
you
haven't
fail, you fail.
considered that at all? No, never.
And I was set to compete this year, and then COVID. So I don't know. Is that jiu-jitsu have gone? Yeah, we'll wait for him, the super heavyweight guy, because I'll be super heavy, and I'll be in masters, I think, because
Yeah.
it's for. So I might have a chance if no one else shows up.
Because that's my big
But
mate to say. He won the Masters European twice. He's a four-stripe blue belt now. He's just purple at some stage, but he's 140 kg and can do the splits, can handstand, weighted chin-ups. So yeah, if you're 101 kg, you're fighting him. Like,
he
uh,
can do the splits at 140.
well, he's a world champion kickboxer as well, and he does weighted
Oh,
chin-ups.
jeez.
So he has athleticism you wouldn't believe for a guy at that size. You go, how is he doing that? It's crazy.
You should do some videos with them, like if they're up for it.
What I'm gonna, yeah, totally. And I was gonna do it myself on YouTube. I was gonna nearly interview some of my clients because the stories that these guys have, like there's wee Kevin I train with, say British hairdresser of the year a couple of times. He's in his 60s. At 60 years of age and 60 something kg, he had 180 or 90 deadlift. So it was close to triple body weight deadlift. Was doing ring muscle ups. He got a couple of reps, and he actually had a car accident at Christmas and broke his back, broke 7 ribs, edema in the lungs, broke a foot. A few sort of major things.
Jeez.
And he phoned me actually, and he says, "Neil, you saved my life." I was like, "Right," and he says, they're going to operate my back because there's a break, but because I was strong and everything else, I'm just going to have to wear this corset thing. And he puts a lot of it down to strength training, basically saved his life. So I have a couple of guys. I had another guy, he's a few stone off, fell, dislocated 2 shoulders. I have other guys that came through hip operations. There was a guy I have in on Tuesday who's lost his brother in car crashes. And, they come to me for as much the therapy as it is the lifting weights. But the guys I have around me now, I'm very lucky that you sort of build that network and tribe and just I don't work for a living. I live the absolute dream. It's taken me a long time, and this is the thing. A lot of younger like fitness guys, would ever see me and go, "Oh, I'm going to do what that guy Neil does," or "I want to get to that stage." It's like this has taken me a long, long time, and I've made a lot of mistakes in the process. But I've got here. It's only now, like, so I turned 40 in April, and I literally woke up the other morning just thinking, I've got my shit together. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It just took such a long time.
I'll let you know if I ever find mine. I'm telling you.
But yeah, in terms of jiu-jitsu, the competing, like I'll not lie. I still shit myself going to competitions. Especially like you're going down, it's your peers are watching you. You might get hurt. I snapped my bicep off a couple of years ago doing gymnastics, and I remember competing. My second competition after was the British. I did the British after. I snapped my bicep off in gymnastic rings, and 2 days later I went to jits and just sparred because I thought, well, I'm doing my surgery anyway, so I'll just just
Just get a session.
and
Because that,
yeah, I was still able to do it. But the jiu-jitsu thing, like this is the thing, like it's shit because the anxiety, you see competitors or whatever, and you think, oh, how come that guy's not anxious? How come he's not pooping his pants? We are, we all do. I've maybe done double digit comps, like probably like 12 or 13, and I've won a few, lost a few, but the anxiety is still a real thing. And it's funny, some of my best, my last jiu-jitsu comp was purple belt masters Irish last year, and I got beat. Now I didn't get tapped, but the guy that beat me went on the armbar again in the final in about 30 seconds. He was pretty slick. He couldn't catch me, but I remember thinking at the time of my composure, and that was the difference. So I wasn't even thinking about the jiu-jitsu. I just thought, I'm able to breathe here. I'm able to think. I'm able to do jiu-jitsu. Whereas the early comps, you have the adrenaline dump and you do a load of stupid shit. And there was one time when I was a blue belt, I just did a comp. I remember my first. I won I won the Dublin Open as a white belt, right? And no one scored a point on me. I subbed again in the final with a bow and arrow choke. I felt brilliant. I was Bruce Lee, and I did my first blue belt comp. And the guy I went up against, I had a panic attack in that fight. Like, just my balls dropped. I was a blue belt. I felt out of my depth. I didn't deserve to be there. And I was up against this guy, and he just looked like he had his shit together. He had a load of patches on, and he had the Beats by Dre headphones. And I thought, this guy's done a lot of comps, you're battling with yourself. It's a constant mental game of, I'm not good enough for this. He's gonna beat me. Or what if I look stupid? My coach is watching. All my mates are watching. Someone's videoing it. Oh, I'm gonna end up on Facebook. And you have this thing. And I had that. So I got beat in that fight. My first blue belt fight, I got tapped. Maybe a triangle. And then my second, and then that guy actually, the guy that beat me, got his purple belt in the podium. So he's like 4 years ahead of me. And then the next competition, I fought a guy. I did a no gi competition. I thought, I know what, I'll do a no gi competition. And I fought a guy that owned the 10th planet. And I didn't train no gi at the time. I still don't. I was like, oh, sick. And I got caught. I got caught in a counter. And in my next comp, I competed against the guy, and I saw him tap a guy at a previous competition. I knew he was slick and shit hot, and I thought, I'm just gonna keep getting emptied here. Blue belt, I just don't deserve it. And I beat him by an advantage, right, in the first round, and we had a round robin. So I fought him again. 2 fights later, I fought that same guy and beat him 20-0 and just destroyed him. And I couldn't tap him. And 20-0 is not great in jiu-jitsu because you've moved too many positions. Ideally, you want to beat him 8-0 and sub him. But once I won that comp, the next comp I went to, I think I triangled the guy. And the comp after that, I won the Irish Nationals in like 30 seconds with a triangle and just felt I got a bit of momentum, but it's just win, lose, or draw. You do a comp and you come away from it and you learn something from it. And I found my jiu-jitsu progressed a lot quicker than anyone else because I threw myself in at that. And a sweep that I didn't get in a competition or a sweep that I did get, then you knew that sweep worked or didn't work because the guy that you were sparring against. Because if you go into a club and you spar with someone, and you get something on them, so say you're a blue belt, Ian, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So say you go in and you catch a purple belt and you think, I caught that purple belt and I'm getting pretty good. But that purple belt's maybe rolling at 40% and you're going at 90%. Whereas if you can go to a comp, and this is the thing, you go to a comp and you get caught by someone, you go, I need to work on that bow and arrow defense or that armbar defense. Or if you catch someone, so I've subbed a couple of guys in comp, and it's the nicest feeling ever because that guy is at my level. He's going 100%. He's trying to take my face off, and I've just subbed him. So my jiu-jitsu is effective in this, and it's getting better. And you come away from it, and you start to look at jiu-jitsu different. So the comps change. You say, I still get nervous. No, still, if I'm doing my next comp, I'll still get anxious because I haven't done one. Just with just the way it's went. But you give yourself that wee bit of a pat in the back, and then you start to take the positives out of it, and you build on it, and then you find your jiu-jitsu gets better, as opposed to maybe just a hobbyist club goer who never tests it. The other side of jiu-jitsu is, I say, I want it from a self-defense point of view. I've got a family. I'm conscious if someone breaks into the house, I need to be able to deal with that. And by doing competitions, men aren't used to this. You're not used to the adrenaline dump. You just don't get it. So the fact that you can put yourself out there and get the chance to experience it, and you don't get punched in the face, so it's like it's a great way to test it.
Because that's what I struggle with. Like, I'll find myself sometimes in a role, smashing through people, pressure passing, I'll be a beast. And then there'll be times I'm just not feeling it. And I'll find myself talking during some roles because it's like I'm trying to make a joke and throw in a bit of humor rather than just, giving it my best. And I read a really good quote the other day, and it said, "You need to learn how to fail." And it's like, I think that's what I was doing. I was stopping myself from getting tapped, but not try to teach myself to defend it. And then I've seen all these people who go into their first comp, and the old bullied version of myself, the old like comparison of other people version of me, I was immediately going, "Oh, look at her! She's done her first competition and she's got gold." And it could mean she's a white belt, And then I
Yeah.
was thinking I should have competed at white belt, and all this old autopilot thing came in. I was like, I should have done this. Oh, I'm comparing myself, and it keeps coming, and it's something I still struggle with now. I mean, I was bullied in primary school, and I still see the guys every so often, and they've completely forgotten about it. But to me, I think sometimes a lot of my habits still stem from it, and
Totally.
I'm almost 40, and I'm still doing it, and that's what I think. I'm trying to learn. It definitely got better from jiu-jitsu, but the podcast really helps. And speaking to people like you
Oh,
who who teach me about this, and you're admitting what a lot of people don't like saying. I go in panicking like hell, I did it, and it makes me now go, yeah, why not just go give it a go? Why not have a bit of? And I think that's the problem is we blow this shit way out proportion. I think we're being judged, and
the
a
big
lot
thing
of time,
is, see, as an adult, if you don't want to do something, you can very quickly turn around and go, "Nope, I'm not doing that," and you have a choice. Whereas one of the things I think has definitely helped my personal growth is going, I don't want to do that, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it. It's like giving birth on TV on that labor. It was always a random one, or stepping on the mats at a competition, and you're going, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this?" But then it's the same with you. Like when I joined my jiu-jitsu club, our coach, our professor Graham, is trained under Roger and So Roger Gracie and Mauricio Gomez. So for those that don't know, Roger's 10-time world champion, best jiu-jitsu player ever. Mauricio was his dad. Mauricio was my coach's coach, and he used to come over to the UK and stay with Graham. So Graham would have rolled out in the garage with Roger for years. It's crazy. They have a really tight bond. So when I went to jiu-jitsu and I was, a new white belt or whatever, strong and powerful, and I was rolling with Graham, a man in his 40s, and I was then going having to throw up after 3 minutes, and they were all mocking me and going, I thought you were a fitness guy, you were a personal trainer, what me in there throwing up, and I went back out and I threw up. I think I threw up 6 or 7 times my first year in that jiu-jitsu club, and I was famous for it, just having to run off, and because I was using a lot of strength and a lot of tension, didn't want to give up. And it was funny, I rolled with Graham there just before COVID, and at the end of a roll, he can't catch me now. I've given him a wee bit of a hard time, and he was lying on his back, busted, and I bounced up and called out the next guy for a roll. I remember just thinking, "Fuck! If you'd have showed me myself now years ago, I
yeah,
wouldn't have believed you." And that's the way I sort of think about it. It's like, what can come if you just get through this awkward phase? How much are you going to grow? It was even like having a business mentor last year. So there's other guys who've been in the game a long time, even a couple of years, and they'll think, "Oh, I'm doing this the way I'm doing it, therefore it works." And for me, it was like, I'm doing something so long that I need someone else to have another look at it to see I'm doing the right thing and working to improve it and everything else. And I'll go and pay a lot of money for that just because it's personal growth. And I think that's the thing for um, why I'd be quite good at a few things, but it's purely because I always see, like, if you're not growing, then you're just in the same spot. So why not learn some new skills? Like I say, the minute COVID kicked off, I'm like, oh, I want to learn how to use a camera properly and how to build a website and how to, and you just start layering up all these skills. But that comes from being uncomfortable. And I say as the clients, like the biggest motivation, what, we say, what is motivation? Motivation to me is inspiration or desperation. So some things will inspire you to do it, and other things it's desperation. But um, by putting yourself in shitty positions, I think they can just inspire you to end up in a better place. You know?
Oh, you're talking to the grown up version of me now. I'm like, yeah, I want to do it because the wee kid of me's going, oh, but, and I'm like, no, you're
Yeah,
doing it, you're doing it, you're doing it. And I think that's the good thing. You're being a dad to everybody who's maybe needs to be taught how to be a better parent. You're showing people how to be dads, but you're also just you know you're showing you know what I mean? Though you're kind of teaching people about more than just being a dad or like how to raise kids. You're also teaching them about jujitsu, about running the business, about coaching, and there's a lot of stuff insights in there that blows people away. That they kind of go like they come away with more than just the humor of it, and
yeah.
I think that's what kind of pulls it. What I mean, is there anything that you like? What's the proudest moment of you being a father so far? What's been the thing that's really stuck, or is it like them the first drawing they've done, or the first time they've come on the rings, or do you find you're just getting blown away every day? You know, is being a parent the kind of a joy that just keeps giving? Or has there been something that really sticks in your mind that they've done?
I think it's like that sort of thing I was saying earlier, where at the start it's okay. It will be a bit shit, for new parents or whatever. But our kids now, I say they're 4 and 2, and me and the wife, me and Jen, are sometimes in the kitchen. Will be buckled. The tears will be tripping us because the kids will just come out with something hilarious, and you just think, where does she get this from? It's just funny. In terms of me, like it's not so much that you would see them do something, but it's manners. I'm always really impressed with kids with good manners. I think it's so important. We Kevin would own the salon. He would mention that the other time because a lot of kids come in and with their mom and dad or whatever, and they're maybe on an iPad or on a tablet or whatever, and they wouldn't even lift the head from it. Whereas if a kid's got good manners, you really notice. And that to me when they say, "Oh, thank you," and I'm like, "Oh, you're welcome," and they pick up sort of good manners. That's I say the just having healthy little humans who are good people sort of blows me away. Not so much what they've maybe created or built or whatever with toys, or it's just seeing good humans, and you just know that what the foundations are good here. I think they'll grow up to be good teenagers and good adults, and good parents themselves.
Because it's quite amazing, like, my mom will say things like that she remembers her parents doing, and you can see the sort of like, the foundations that are taught in a family, and you can normally tell like if that kid's like that, then the parents are gonna be like that, then maybe the brother would be like that, and you kind of judge sometimes people.
Totally.
Like you kind of, and I know what you mean. It's like when you go in and you see a little shit of a kid, and you think, yeah, it says more about the mother than it does about the kid because the kid's been allowed to think that's acceptable. I mean, did your time on the birthing machine? Did you go back and give like Jen a box of chocolates and go, "Well done"? Like, how did that even come about? Because my mother was buckling with laughter watching you on it,
Yeah.
but you just happened to sort of like I remember watching it thinking, where does that come from? Where did you get that offer?
Yeah.
How did you even get into that predicament, shall we call it?
Yeah, so again, it was purely just a phone call. They wanted me and Jen down originally, but Jen was going to look after the kids, and Jen was like, "You know what? You go." Jen sort of just, I come off these ridiculous things, and Jen just sort of goes, touch and rolls the eyes. But yeah, it was just purely because the Facebook page, the Amateur Dad, had a bit of traffic and a bit of traction, and they thought, who's good for this? And yeah, I was able to just jump on board with it sort of last minute. The machine itself, it was funny because I ended up sore for about 4 days after, because
Jeez.
they linked this on to me, and you got a chance to gradually build it up and build it up. And you got a wee bit of, oh, okay, there's a sore, but then they were maybe off air for a bit, or they were doing like another segment on the show, and then they go, okay, right, back to Neil in the studio, and then they crank it up, but you weren't used to it. It was okay when you got to build up and build up. Um, and I tell you what, I was sore for a couple of days. So on a like scale of 100, I think I was on like 60 or 70 on the machine. It wasn't even cranked
Jeez.
right up. Um,
Whereabout did they put the electrodes?
it's
Like,
all
please say it's not on your taint.
no, it's it's all abs, all in your stomach. And then Jamie Dornan's dad came in. He was like a GP, I think. Jamie Dornan did the 50 Shades of Grey.
Mm.
He came in and it was sort of chatting to Stephen, who was sort of hosting the show about it, and says, "Yeah, you might even get to feel the physical parts of this, but you're not getting the mental parts." Like when Jen gave birth, and that's what I said on the show. This is just for Jen, a bit of crack, but Jen was just gassing her, hard as nails, just bopped the kids out.
Jesus.
Second kid was our youngest, was a water bath thing. We'd originally wanted that for our eldest, but because she was premature, they don't give you the water bath. It's only if you're in a certain window and a certain date. Um, so yeah, it was a funny experience. And this is the other thing. Like it's you always think, if I hadn't have done that, if I had have said, oh, millions of I don't know how many people watch, say thousands of people watch this, or you're gonna be seen or whatever, you might look stupid or you might look whatever. But I think as long as you always think, you know what, just if you take the piss out of yourself a wee bit, then it doesn't matter. And in the grand scheme, all those people who watched that will have forgotten about it, but I'll have a memory of it that's good and funny to talk to you about now. It's funny to talk to kids about. So it was like one of
You're
my
that.
clients years ago went on like the weakest link, and he got a really stupid question wrong, but it didn't matter. He just wanted his kids to see him on TV and have something to laugh about, as opposed to what other people would have really thought.
Well, you're definitely the first person I've ever interviewed who is given birth on live TV. Let's put it that way. But no, it's just every time I found something about you, it was kind of like, oh, I want to ask about jiu-jitsu. Oh no, I want to ask about the kid. No, I want to ask about the social media. Oh, but the business. And I think that is true. What you're saying is you do have a brilliant life set up, and I think because some people I do interview, I do get the impression they kind of go into character mode, or they have their own scripts and stuff. And I just find your stuff, you're just like a genuine person, and I think that's what it's the real appeal of you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think
That you're
problem
not.
with a lot of the guys that are doing the social media thing now or whatever, they are trying to be a character. And I think the problem with that is you can just never keep it up. It would drain the life out of you. And I think it's one of the things as well that it's very hard then when, say, someone's created something and it maybe does go viral and ends up really big and it becomes a business to them, and then they have to stick to doing something and it loses maybe the organic feel about it. But the fact that my stuff sort of, yeah, it's real. It also makes it easy to do, because there's no sort of, you don't have to script it or, yeah, it's just easy.
And do you think there is such a thing as a sort of definition of a good dad? If somebody, you see all these kind of BS things about, well, if you had to sum up what makes a good dad, do you think you can really kind of do that, or is it just be there for the kids and be yourself and let them discover what
Yeah,
I mean? Could you sum it up?
it's a tough one. Like, I don't know, because I think a good dad is just a good person, isn't it? Just a good human.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one because there'll be so many dads from so different backgrounds and have so many different stories to tell. But I think the big thing is having time for your kids, which is one thing I'm very conscious of. And it's hard, especially with me. I have so much on. There's nothing worse than if you look over the top of the iPad and say, you know what, I'll get you in a minute. I'll get you in a minute. I think I'm very conscious of making time for the kids, because if you make time for them and just listen to them, there is that thing. If you don't listen to them for the small stuff, they'll never come to you with the big stuff. So
Hmm.
that always sticks in my head, to say if it is a bullying thing or something major that goes on. So yeah,
With an older sibling, it's usually them that's bullying you. I've got an older brother, and he used to. Once I got strong, like got bigger and bigger and stronger, because I used to weightlift and that, he would do sneak attacks. Like, because we used
not
to, we
good.
used to play wrestle and all that, but it never goes away. We're like he knew I did jiu-jitsu, so we were walking up a hill with the dogs, and he was like, "I'm going to see if I can take you down." And I was like, all of a sudden, it became like a jiu-jitsu match halfway up a hill, and I was just like, "Come on, then!" So I was hip throwing him and all that. And it never goes away, no matter how old you are. But you remember that because we were back when we were kids, we were allowed to do all the physical stuff. My mom would come out, like, we'd be out in the water on the beach holding us as we went out in the dinghy into the waves and stuff. And you remember you become the adult that your parents set you up to be. And what I mean?
Yeah, like
I think,
my mom and dad were from Fermanagh originally. So it's the sort of more of a Lake District type part of Northern Ireland, and lots of lakes and lochs, and they would have been very, um, like when we went to Donegal on the coast, sort of coast of Ireland there, jump in the sea and everything. And I said to my mom, "Oh, would we not get wetsuits?" And the look she gave me as if, "You fucking, you know,
Just get on
get
with
him
it.
that
It's like the Billy.
large up. Do you want the fucking extra large tampon to go with it? Get him that." And there's just that bit of hardiness. So there's sometimes like when our kids fall or whatever, you're just like, just man up and get back up there and get on it. I think that's the thing.
Yeah,
Like, it's hard not to be a parent now and just totally bubble wrap your kids. But it's finding that sweet spot. It's just not good for them to not explore and hurt themselves the odd time, and obviously within reason. But um, yeah, I just
well, look at
got
the chickenpox parties. You used to get a friend that got chickenpox. You got to go play with them,
yeah,
and at the time, we never got told why. You're
yeah,
like, you just get it, and then that way you didn't get it more serious when you're an adult. And it's nowadays you go, that's sadistic. It worked
yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah, totally.
What would you say to people like listening? Like if you had to get them to sum up this as like I don't know, like a sort of go home message, I suppose is calling it. But what would you say to them is their like if they had to take three things from it, or what would you want your key points to be?
Okay. Um,
It's very hard, I know, after an hour
it's very
off,
hard
but
because the thing for me is to probably take a risk on the thing you enjoy would be a biggie, because the thing you enjoy could end up being your business, or you could end up living the dream from that thing. So I think it's so easy to have like guys stuck in an office and they work 9 to 5 and they hate it or whatever, but it's paying their mortgage and paying their bills. And I always think, you know what, you can always sell your house, downsize, start a business, take the risk. I saw a guy murdered actually when I was young. He was shot in the face in Belfast, and we were driving home, and I was about 17 or 18, and he was dead. He was alive one minute, he was dead the next, and it was a bit horrific, obviously. And I'm very aware of, you get one shot at life. You know, marry the right person, do the job you want to do. You get one shot at this. People think that they just go through the motions with life, and they don't take chances. They don't go on TV giving birth or whatever. So I think that would be my big thing, and where it's like, just learn to absolutely love every day. Like, I wake up every day and just go, fuck me, this is amazing. And people say to me, says, well, you've seen some actually pretty bad shit, or you've been, had a hard enough time maybe when you were younger, well, it was bullying or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but I'm alive today, and there's a lot of guys haven't had the opportunity. We're like in Belfast here, especially, like every other week you're hearing of guys committing suicide, or there's another death, or whatever. Um, and I think you just, what are the positives you can take from your day, and how can you do something today that makes tomorrow just even that wee bit better, so that over time it'll add up, and the next thing you are just living the absolute dream. Um, so that would be my thoughts on it. So
oh, I love that, because that's the thing. It's if you don't give it a go more than once, how do you know it's not for you? Because you're going to get the first time, you're going to go, you're going to get the nerves. The second time, you're going to go, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. And then by the third time, I think you can kind of guess by that point if it's for you. If you're still like clinging on to the lamppost outside, then it's maybe not for you. But I mean, are you happy now? Do you think with the way things are going, would you prefer to still be doing like the writing for Men's Health? And if you look back now, would you have changed anything, or do you love life the way it is now?
yeah, so when I did Men's Health, I was a personal trainer, and I beat a few thousand guys and got into the cover model competition that Men's Health held every year. So I was like one of the Irish guys that got over. He went over to London, and I never got the front cover, but they offered me the job as their online fitness editor. And I say I wasn't a writer, but I got quite good at answering questions, because I had a fitness blog of my own at the time, and Men's Health were sort of aware that I'd been writing a wee bit of fitness. So for them, it was easy, because I was able to write a wee bit, and I knew my fitness, whereas a lot of other guys maybe really knew their fitness but couldn't write, or they could write really well and didn't know their fitness. So I sort of had that sort of bit of a sweet spot. Um, And I loved that when I did it. You know, it was great for my sort of CV, and it was a great sort of time. Um, but I think I say I grew it. I remember writing articles on my phone for like 80,000 people, and I was literally doing it on my phone at lunch break, just off the top of my head and stuff, because you were just so consumed by fitness all the time. And so anything I've done, like I had a nutrition business with a friend. I ended up selling him the sort of name and stuff, and he used it to open up my gym. But like that failed for us. I had a bit of a breakdown during it, where if you joined one of the big gyms here in Ireland, you essentially could pay and go through a process I had built. Um, but it was all sort of, it was hard to do. We tried to build it while also working as personal trainers, and it failed. And it had the chance to be a multi-million pound thing, but for me, it was going to kill me, because of the stress of it. And so I took a hit and walked away from it. So I have failed at loads of stuff. And I suppose I just keep coming back at it. I wrote for other magazines, and you know, you do bits and bobs, and then over time, you learn, you pick all the best bits of the stuff you really enjoyed, and you forget about the other stuff that maybe didn't quite work, and then all of a sudden you end up with a go-to system.
So, what's your opinion then on like these fad diets like 5-2 and intermittent fasting? And well, I know that's not fad, but
Yeah,
what would you say to people who then are listening and thinking, "Oh, this is brilliant"? I'm going to write Tim and see about if I can get some online coaching with him. I'm going to definitely sign up and read up, like the amateur dad stuff. But what changes could they make, say, this week alone in terms of their diet? Would you get them out walking every day for 10 minutes after eating, or would you how can they start ramping up their fitness and
okay.
cleaning up their diet, making the small changes? Have you found anything that the hacks, the work, the transformation Jen made was amazing, but to see the small changes she made was brilliant.
So,
What kind of things would you get them doing?
well, in terms of the diet sort of stuff, I don't do the diets. Like when I was younger, I would have tried diets or would have played with diets. The problem I say with the diet is if you're on a diet, you're potentially off a diet, and that's never a great thing. Um, what I generally say to clients is that a lot of people are same for myself. I'm at base level, and if I want to do a photo shoot or a jiu-jitsu competition or whatever, I'm not that far from the peak. Where if I want to ramp up my nutrition, maybe go a wee bit more aggressive in my training, I get to the peak. But a lot of normal guys aren't at base level; they're at sea level, and they go from sea level to base level is not this, or sea level to base camp is not the same as going from base camp to Everest. You know what I mean? So the sea level to base camp is essentially just improving your habits. And if you're doing a diet, a lot of time that's not going to improve your habits. You're just following a system that has the potential to fail. So I know a guy does intermittent fasting and it works brilliant for him. And as a coach, I go, that works for you. It suits your lifestyle. It's sustainable. You enjoy it. Therefore, that works for you. And this is what coaching essentially is. Coaching is taking all the information and experience and looking at the guy you have in front of you and saying, yeah, that'll work for you. So, for example, I might have a guy there and you might say, oh, I do really well on low carbs. Okay, you do, let's go with that. But ketosis or low carbs, and his wife might want to try it, but low carbs aren't great for females because it affects their cycles and everything. So a lot of the nutrition sort of stuff is think about, am I going to be able to do this in 6 months? So when people say, oh, I watched a show on Netflix and I've went vegan, or I've watched this and I'm going to take out all my carbs, I'm going to do the intermittent fast and whatever. And I'm always like, are you going to be able to do that in 6 months? Probably
Yeah.
not. Yeah, and if you're not able to do that in 6 months, then it's too big a chunk. A chunk. You've tried to go from sea level to Everest without finding a base camp first. Um,
I love that way of looking
I
at
love that, and I think I'm nearly sure I made that up myself, and I haven't stolen that from someone, which is rare.
it.
I'm nearly sure that was one of my own analogies. Um,
But it actually makes sense to kind of, it makes you understand what you mean, because some people kind of go, I don't know what you're on about, like 60% and 80%. But to actually say, they go, right, starting from like the bottom lip, right, going up the top, and you have to set up your established, like get your hooks in before you start climbing. And right.
I did a course with Ido Portal. You know Ido Portal?
Oh, yeah, the movement
Yeah,
guy.
so he's Conor McGregor's movement coach. I actually introduced Conor McGregor to Roger Gracie on a night out in Belfast, drunk. That's another story. It's funny when you start talking about stuff, but yeah, I was like, "Oh, Connor, have you met the goat?" But yeah, Ito Port.
How did you meet Conor McGregor on a night out? We'll
Yeah,
have to have that one in at some point.
yeah, so I'll come back to that. But Ito Portal, this was years ago. No one really knew him. A friend of mine tried to get him over to Belfast, and they couldn't get the numbers for a course because everyone was like, "Who's Ito Portal?" So, whereas now you couldn't get him, like there's just no chance. Um, but he on one of the courses he was talking about terminology that you have to use, and it comes back to what I said at the start about communicating with clients. So you might say to a guy, "Listen, flex your wrist," and they flex their. And obviously we can't see each other in this, but you flex your wrist, and it's like, okay, now tense your bicep, and you might be able to tense your bicep, and then okay, make goosebumps appear on your shoulder. Uh, I don't know how to make that happen, and everyone's at different levels where what works for someone. So someone might know how to flex a wrist and they might know how to flex their bicep, but they might not know how to make goosebumps appear. Someone else might be able to because they're so advanced at how their body works. And that Edo Portal was sort of explaining this. So when you're the big problem for a lot of guys is that they'll come to me and say, "Oh, Neil, yeah, I'm a total beginner, white belt in the gym, but I'm trying this snatch routine to get my snatch up." I'm like, "But you've never done a deadlift or a kettlebell swing or whatever, everyone sort of looks for the most complicated thing as opposed to learning the basic terminology, um, which is what I think of in my coaching now. It's just trying to have everything really basic. And that was the Edo Portal course was like that of like, chase intensity and complexity. And everyone, I think, when they go on YouTube or whatever, is they always look for the more advanced option. And because it's advanced, again, they're at sea level, they're buying crampons. Like, you don't need crampons, you're at sea level. You need just good hiking boots. Do you know what I mean? To get base camp. Um, I know I'm going off the tangent there. The Conor McGregor one, we were out and there was fights. One of our friends was fighting in Belfast at a thing, and our jiu-jitsu club had like the VIP box, and we shared it with Conor McGregor's team. So all these guys wearing very flowery shirts and dodgy clothes, thinking they were the goat. But Roger Gracie happened to be with us because we were out in a night out in Belfast. So yeah, Roger's class. Like, he's just such a down to earth dude. Like, I was actually driving that night, but Roger bought me a pint, so I had to drink it because Roger's buying me a pint. And it's funny, Conor McGregor come walking over to me, and Conor's actually quite stacked in real life. It's funny, like, he wasn't fighting at this stage, but like he'd be my sort of height, but he brought out his shoulder and everything. And he was there with his whole entourage, and Roger is just a super. It's funny because Conor come walking around, all the paparazzi around him was, camera crews and all knocking about, and all his team of sort of hanger oners, and Roger was just there, and you think, there's Roger Gracie, like he is, you don't know, he's a total weapon, like the best in the world at his game, and just no arrogance, no ego, and really actually quite shy, quite a shy dude. And yeah, just Connor, I was like, "Oh, have you met the goat?" And it was funny then because where I happened to be standing, and again, I'm just a low level purple belt tit from North Belfast. I'm not in their level, but where I happened to be standing, then Roger's different guy or Conor McGregor's different guys kept coming up to me and going, "Oh, here, can I meet Roger?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, then, go on ahead," as if I was, you know,
Like this
like
gatekeeper.
even I've met Roger a few times now, and I did a summer camp there actually last year out in Spain. But if I walked past him in the street now, I wouldn't know who I was. But yeah, it's just funny, like.
It's quite amazing though, like when you realize that all these like superstars and heroes that we all, we aspire, they're all just normal people.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that's sometimes you forget. And like, I mean, I met Diamond Dallas Page, who's somebody I looked up to, and I made a shit ton of money off his one of his affiliate things, and it's one of the first products I'd ever used that I truly loved. And when I started doing a review of it, I made like 3 or 4 grand in the first year, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing and best thing ever. And I met him in real life, and he was talking about his own kind of worries and stuff and all that, and you could see that he had his own kind of like where he was getting his lunch from, and he was like he had saying that him and the missus had a falling out that morning and all that, it's like in his presentation thing, and you just think you're just a normal guy, aren't you? You're just,
Dude, yeah.
but somebody who's built up procedures and routines and habits to get them, like like you're saying, to go from like the ground floor to go to the penthouse suite.
Exactly.
I don't want to steal. I don't want to steal your. I'd have to pay you copyright. But you know, and it's like you realize that they've just figured out a way to consistently make those changes, make that small things to get the best thing, and then they've become themselves and just play maybe a bit more of a what do you call it? Like a bit more of a dramatized character of themselves.
And,
Themselves at a higher level, in when they've got the paparazzi and all that kind of stuff. But when you meet them on a night out, they're just normal people. And I'd love to have Connor on at some point because I think his self belief and his jiu-jitsu and his training and all that would be great. He then does some interesting things, shall we say?
yeah, because Jamie
Yeah,
Dornan, actually, no, Jamie Dornan did the 50 Shades of Grey. So when we owned the gym in Belfast, Jamie trained in it, and my younger brother took his photo. So he was doing an elbow lever. So he came down. He trained with a friend of mine that they went to school together. And Jamie Dornan was actually a really shy, down to earth guy. And you think, fuck me, you are Christian Grey. You know, if I was you, I'd be walking about just saying, check my.
like Cock of the North kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah. So he did an elbow lever on a bench in our gym, and my wee brother stand looking at him holding the camera, and because he was down to do a photo shoot of Jimmy, and I says, "Well, take the photo there." And Jamie did this elbow lever, and we took a photo. At the time, I was doing a bit of work for Men's Fitness, and I said to the editor, I said, "Listen, I have a photo on my phone that's going to be the most viral fitness image of next year, and it's Jamie Dornan doing an elbow lever." And Jamie then tweeted on he won the World's Sexiest Man award, and he tweeted that. Oh yeah, thanks to the guys at Iron Fit, which is our gym, and he shared a photo of him doing the elbow lever, and it was funny. All the paparazzi and stuff arrived at our gym for Jamie, and my phone was affiliate because I'd done a couple of newspaper things and magazine things. I had radio stations phoning me at 7 in the morning. A amount of people saying, "Neil, is Jamie still there?" And the photo was taken like 3 months, 4 months prior to the thing, you know. But he was the same, just a real lovely guy and real down to earth. I only met him a couple of times, but then one of the papers ran with a story that I was training him for 50 Shades, and I got tortured then, and it wasn't. I felt really bad actually because it was my big mate was training him, but just because of the way I was affiliated with the magazines and stuff, they just ran with anything. They just wanted to put anything out that Jamie Dornan was connected to at that time.
I would have just left that on my CV. Oh yeah, I trained him. I've got a photo here that proves it. Like,
A guy contacted me and said, and I said, "But I didn't train Jimmy," and it's like, "Oh, but sure, just let on you did for this radio talk." And I says, "But I that's not me. I couldn't do that. You know, I couldn't sleep in my bed at night knowing that, you know, I am very true. I'm very, you know, there's an integrity there you just have to uphold, you know." Um,
it's
and
quite amazing how some people, like, when you see it now, all these influencers and, oh yeah, I definitely use this teeth whitening device. Oh, I definitely use these herbal teas, and you're like, aye, of course you do, hen. Like, take it, like, go take that somewhere else. Because how many of them, like, they're either all constipated with the nastiest teeth in the world, or like, you know, it's like the guys that tell you, like, oh, but if you follow my guide, I can teach you to make £40,000 in your first night on, like,
yeah,
buying stocks and shares, and you're like, if you were making that kind of money, why the fuck would you be teaching me to do it? Why would you want other people, like, taking down the stock prices and that? It's
exactly.
just, I
But
think you have to have that level of integrity, don't you?
I get offered bits and bobs the odd time, and through my dad blog and everything else, and it's legit. Like it's if I don't use that product or I don't believe in it, or you know, then I'll not. It's like I have a mate actually, one of the guys I know is torturing me about one of these sort of supplements, MLM schemes, and he's like, "Oh, but Neil, you know, you've such a big audience now." I'm like, "I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't agree with that product, and you're tying yourself to a brand there that you just don't know if they're the right. Because if that brand, it was like CrossFit recently. I used to do a bit of CrossFit years ago, and the CEO of CrossFit made some statement that was to do with Black
Oh,
Lives
yeah.
Matter or something. There was like what 2,000 affiliates left the next day who pay like $3,000-4,000 a year to be part of CrossFit. Um, so it's just like, you know what, you just if you're gonna put a brand up or whatever, like I would love to work with a brand down the line, but it would have to be like if Red Bull approached me and said they want to pay you £1 million a month, yeah, it's hard to walk away from that. But on the other side, I'm not a big fan of energy drinks, so it's like you know you have to sort of stay true to yourself, you know. Um,
Well, you see, like, you look at these race car drivers, they come out, and I'm surprised they're not tattooing their chests and their foreheads, and they're just like a walking dildo. Like, it's just like, and they must sit there and go, oh, I've got to have this drink with the label faced this way. And,
Yeah,
you see these like Kardashians and all that, and they're just, mind you, when you had kids, which try and make her a billionaire by giving her money, to become the first self made billionaire. And you think, what is going on with this world that these kids aren't thinking, well, how do I start making money to be like her?
true. I read
But
a
I'll give her money to do that. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. I read a great quote somewhere a couple of years ago. It says something like, and you know what statistics are like, but it was like 40% of the jobs our kids will have haven't been invented yet. And when you hear that, just go, oh, how can they go through the school process now the way it is and not be learning how to, deal with, you're learning to, you're training someone for a job that doesn't even exist. Like, where do you even start with that?
Well, how scary is that, though? Like when they say to you, what do you want to be? And you're like, something that's not even been invented yet. Like, can you imagine you went to your guidance teacher? Like I said, I wanted to be a professional footballer because I had no idea. And I
Yeah,
worked in education for, what am I, 7, 8 years? And I just kind of fell into it. But it lets me pay the bills and then have enough money to do jiu-jitsu, but also to build my podcast on the side.
yeah,
I could have gone offshore for 2 weeks at a time, and have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. But then you're stuck out there, not able to create content for 2 weeks. And I'm not great at building like time off to do all this kind of stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I need to have my free time, and there are ways of doing it. You can be a dad working full time with the kids and be in shape. You just got to figure out the habits and routines that work for you. And I think that's where you come and play because you're showing it's possible. I mean, Jen's transformation was amazing, but she's showing that she can be a working mom with small changes. You don't need to be eating just celery and stuff like that. You can have your sausages and your wine and that.
Yeah, it all comes down to knowledge and experience. And when guys come to us for coaching, it's because they haven't time to invest the way we did into the mistakes that I made. So they'll pay for it. Do you know what I mean? And they essentially want the cheat codes. So that's to me is what coaching is. I say with my photography, videography stuff, I love spending hours dicking about and making mistakes and whatever, but I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. For other guys who maybe own companies or whatever, they might say, you know what, I'd love to do that, but I only have 2 or 3 hours a week. Therefore, I'm going to hire a coach for those 2 or 3 hours a week to help me. So you always have to think: is it efficient and is it effective? Again, like my web design, I've created enough time in my life that if I wanted to learn how to design my website, I can sit and do it. I could have paid someone to do it, but for me, I was getting the enjoyment out of actually learning it. Um,
You must have only been doing wee bits because when I was doing mine, I was sweating at my screen far more than I was getting anywhere with it.
yeah,
I It's the moment when you put like an HTML code in, as HTML even, and you kind of you miss a full stop or you don't put something center, or you change the size and go, oh, what did I do there? How did I change that? You start panicking, like.
that's so
But
much.
no, your new site's amazing. And so, what do you want the evolution of that to be? Have you got something in mind? Is it going to become more of the amateur dad stuff being incorporated into that, so you can start working with brands and businesses and that, or do you think you'll keep it?
I think I'll keep the amateur dad just as the amateur dad and almost separate, but my personal training sort of guys will know that that's just something I have as a bit of a funny sideline. I built a membership part on my website as well, but that's for like my guys who are already online coaching. So I've got like recipe books in there and training guides that I've wrote and everything else. Um, the big thing for the website for me was just, I say, to put up nearly a brochure of the type of client I want to have and attract those type of guys and basically say there and then that I even tweaked some stuff yesterday that if you want to train with me, this is generally the guy I train and this is my target audience and whatever, um, and take it from there. So the online coaching for me, say I used to personal train a lot, um, 6 a.m., 10 and 8 p.m., all the rest of it. The online gives me the flexibility now with the kids where if I have a couple of hours free here and there, I can do online work. I can do it sort of random times. But if I'm away, you're sort of anchored with being like a personal trainer, self-employed, your business or whatever. You can be anchored quite a bit. Whereas I'm creating a life now that in 5 years, if we say, you know what, I'm going to go away to France for the summer holidays for 6 8 weeks. I can do that, and I can still work. I can still work on my business. I can still have my online guys going. My personal training guys are all with me years. They're essentially black belts at fitness, so they're self-sufficient, and coming to me, a couple of times is always just a Brucey bonus, but they're great in their own right, Um, so that's where I see it. Whereas when I'm sort of 45, 50, I'll just be even happier than I am now, which to be fair is quite hard to change. I would say I have a very positive outlook on the future.
I mean, it sounds like you've got the dream life, to be honest, at the moment. I mean, is there anything you would change? Do you think number 3's coming? Would you
No,
want? Yeah, would you want your boy a boy at the end of it?
no. I think 2 is brilliant. I don't want to end up buying one of these buses where you get to drive about, and I still like the idea of some sort of nice car.
I like that kind of thing. It's like, do a hand in the Ferrari for the camper van at the moment. Like,
I would definitely get the snip at some stage, and I think as well because the kids are 4 and 2, so we've nearly come through the baby process, and you're just enjoying them now as these young sort of toddlers. So yeah, I think every year it'll just become more and more fun, and I think the big thing for us is to really make time for holidays and time out, because it is easy just to get caught up in you know the business, because I enjoy what I do so much, and I love helping people. That if someone wants in, then I'll get them in, and again, that's why I had to just nearly force myself away from personal training, because I kept taking on people that I didn't really have the time to do it, and you were then just busted all the time. Whereas now it's constantly trying to think work-life balance, and do it in such a way that you future-proof yourself.
well, I know. Oh, geez, we're almost at that time already. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I honestly could speak to you for hours, but we'll have to have that around too soon. But how can people get in touch? Like we've mentioned the website, we've mentioned the Amateur Dad, social media. How can people get on, like come and like speak to you, sign up online if you've got slots available?
Cool.
How can they ask you questions in the Amateur Dad, find all these amazing sites?
So the big thing for me is probably if you go to neilmctee.com, so it's neilmct.com, and then you'll have all my links and everything will be there. So if you read the About Me sort of section, you'll see like YouTube, Facebook, you'll be able to get guided everywhere else. I've just set the YouTube up, so I'd love to get it sort of pumping a wee bit. I've just sort of really started pushing it last week or two, because I had a few videos go up and just wanted to get the layout of it sort of right. So it's all sort of up and ready to go. And then, on the website, you'll have the links to Facebook and stuff. You can go on there and and again, any messages I get, I always try and reply to them. And even guys, if they book a consultation for the online, and I think, this isn't maybe for you what it is, then I'll always try and help them out and send them the right way, if I can.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.